We are live. Hey, everybody. It's me, Space Doug.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got Tonicmole here tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about his groundbreaking comic book, Saving the World, and how it's going to save the world and change the face of history. So you guys definitely need to stick around and get all your friends to show up in here and get the family and gather around the computer, or make your kids get on their phones and watch this because they need to know.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to explain it all.
That's right. It's going to be good times. People in the chat saying, Tonic!
Ezra.
Got plenty of cool people popping in. So just going to give a little shout out here to a couple people. We've got Igthus in the chat and Ezra, Purgatory Paul's book review, Lorenzo Sleestack, Paula Ritchie. Let's see who else. Dave's here. What's up, Dave? And we got Matthew Reese. And that looks like about it for right now. So, Tonic.
Yes.
The book is doing awesome.
Yes.
I'm like, every time I look at it, I see it goes up a couple more people, and I'm like, that is so awesome.
Yeah, and I was really that $500. I was like, it was weird because like a few weeks before, I was like way overconfident, like ridiculously. Where I was like, should I do a Kickstarter and Indiegogo at the same time? And then, but once I got even remotely close, I was like, what are you, crazy? You'll be lucky to get $500, you idiot. And so like it kind of hit me. And so yeah, that whole just the beginning, I was like, I just don't want to be where I don't make the $500 and then I gotta walk away in shame. So yeah, very happy. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm glad because that means I get to get a copy myself.
That's right. And really, with a lot of the stuff, I think getting those budgets down should be like primary deal, because I set a $500 limit. I didn't have to get $500 to ship out the comics, and that was part of my deal. I was like, do I want to have that limit on there? But it's kind of something to work to, it's fun to work to that to be funded. And that is, that's kind of what I have, but it's not like I couldn't come up with enough to print those things and ship them.
Yeah.
But I said it because I was like, no, you have to have that thing to work towards or whatever. And I don't want to be out. I'm not a rich man. I might have that much money at one given point in time. They probably should have went to something else, like paying rent or something. But it was, it was feasible. The money would be there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I kind of went back and forth. But then I said it. But then I was like, you'll never make that. But then it wouldn't do that at all.
Well, I think like when you get done with the Indiegogo, are you going to run a Kickstarter?
Yes. Awesome. So that I have, because I want to find out what platform I should be on, Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and I have no idea. I'm very happy with how the Indiegogo went. And then, there was part of a deal that, I don't want the cat, go away. I don't want the Indiegogo people to be like, you bastard, if I
yeah. So
really it's like all the Indiegogo people, there's going to be stuff other than just the Saving the World #1. So I have a lot of comics that really can't be Kickstarted, like crowdfunded by themselves. They don't need to be. So I'm just going to have them on there for people to buy. Probably I'll probably have a physical of Sober, me and Tony Sizzle's Sober comic. And then once everybody actually reads Saving the World, they'll see there's a comic in there that almost looks like Kira on the cover, called Protest Girl. And it was actually the comic I wrote before I did Saving the World. And there was a girl that looks a lot like it was the proto Kira. But then I made it more serious. It was kind of a political satire.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about polishing that up and releasing that with the Kickstarter. So there'll be a lot of weird, comics you can just buy by themselves. So the Indiegogo people can get anything that's on the Kickstarter without having to buy Saving the World Again or anything like that, to keep it fair.
Yeah. So, like I pulled up your page here. I'm going to refresh it real quick. Okay. You got 62 backers at $1,065, 213%. We've got 31 hours left on this.
Yeah, we still got time to make it to $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, everybody scrape out your nickels and dimes and get on this.
Yeah, look at that. Digital for $5.
That's one thing. Like I think everybody should do that, because you give them a chance there. Let's say, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that much money. I'll throw $5 at, you spend $5 when you stop at the gas station and buy a soda and a candy bar or something, Well, here's $5. You get a cool little comic book you can read, while you're pooping at work.
That's right.
Because that's what they get on their phone when they go to the bathroom. I'm pooping. It's like, just going through there.
We don't need to be in an illusion here. We know what we make. We make things to read while you poop. I mean, you can only read the ingredients to like a shampoo bottle so many times before you're like, well, I know that.
Exactly.
Boom, comic books.
And, I mean, like they could check it out there, and that's where you hook them at, I think.
Yeah.
I think the digital edition is good, because next time it comes up, they'll be like, hey, you know what? I would like to own that physically.
Right. And see, like with the my hair is going crazy. Hold on. Yeah. So with the issue number 2, I'm just going to compile, so there'll be bundles as you go on. So if someone got the digital this time, which I do a lot, because I want to support as many people as possible, and just check them out, so I'll know like what the community is actually putting out there. And I buy a lot of digitals first, and then I go back and buy the physicals later or whatever. And and now I have a better track on the comics that I'm more interested in. So I'm getting more into physical than I was originally. Because, the biggest problem was when I first was kind of checking things out, I'd go with a bunch of physicals. Well, one physical, I could either buy one physical comic or like support 5 different people's digital. And so I try to spread that out. Except for the ones that, I'm pretty guaranteed to be interested in. Yeah.
I'm actually going to start trying to pick up more digital books.
Yeah.
Like if if I'm like, I just got a couple bucks, I want to check this out. Because there's books that I've kind of seen around I didn't pay much attention to. And then once I looked at it, I was like, man, I really missed out on this book. Mm-hmm. If I'd have spent the couple dollars on the PDF, then I could, next time it comes around, I'd be like, hey, I want a copy of that.
Yeah, see, I stumbled across a lot of cool stuff. Well, the oh boy, if I was prepared, I hate saying things that I'm probably wrong about. What Mythic Verse with like the the Wicked Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
I knew about Jack Irons, but I didn't know about the the other the Mythic Verse, I think, what it is. And so I just started getting in on that. But then there was it was Luray or something. It's not related to them. It's totally different comic. But I bought a digital. It was like a digital bundle. It's like everything the guys or him and every friend he's ever known has done. It was like 20 comics, digital comics. It was awesome. And now he's doing, I can't remember, but I would plug his comic if I remembered. But I backed it. So actually, I'll look that up.
Well, we'll keep scrolling through the thing here. You can pick up the physical copy of this for $15, and it's 32 pages. That in the indie underground comics realm, that's a good price.
Yeah, I think
because a lot of people don't understand when you're dealing in small runs of comic books. It costs quite a bit to print these things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really wanted to do the $10, because you guys are doing $10 on. I'm not that brave though, because man, that is if you goof up on $10. And people go, well, $10 is a bit. It's like, no, it isn't. If you go to dynamite.com and order a comic from them, it will cost you at least $10.
Yeah.
Because shipping is like $7. And so, yeah, this in reality, this $10 is pretty fair. But for me, I was like, oh, all I want to do is not poop the bed on this whole deal. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing 15. I'm not brave enough to go. And it ended up pretty good because, I think when people do campaigns like this, they need to, think about the reality that you're only going to have 40 or 50 people buy a physical copy. Now it don't show up on here because here's what I did. I forgot to change the shipping originally on all my tiers, so it's international, which would have killed me. So I had to make all new tiers because you can't change them once you. So I was 1/4 the way through my campaign. So these are only the count only on the actual tiers where it shows is only once I changed them because I had to hide the ones with international shipping because I couldn't afford it. But I think I'm at 30 something physical comics that I've sold.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. That don't really cost much when you only do those. Now I'm going to print probably like 300 so that I can continue down the line and kind of, I really want to do there's the print on demand. I'd like to do first print and second print, even though it's these small runs, I'd like to keep that and change the cover a little with each, so there's a thing there. But, so yeah. But, but when you think about these small groups of people, like I'm going and having a bunch of, there'll be a lot of posters included that I haven't talked anything about. There'll be posters and bookmarks and every little thing you can imagine that I can stuff in that box. Just even the people who just bought the physical, just the little deal, they'll actually get a box full of junk. And I have Brian Ball and Luigi did that little crossover deal with Kira, and it'll be the Luigi one. They are doing the okay, I can't remember. I should have wrote a bunch of stuff down. They just posted one recently.
Yeah.
That one. That they can get. I think that's on their Patreon. It's at their store. You can get like big prints of that one, and I'm gonna do prints and stuff of the one Luigi did.
Cool.
And so that has it's helped, but it's also been like super cool, like that gets you amped when, crossovers. I don't know. I love it. It's kind of, it's interesting to see different people cross over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in there cause it's only 30 or so people. So, it's really cheap to make 30 or so bookmarks, 30 posters and all that type of stuff in the grand scheme of things.
Eric Hawkins says, my first solo campaign had about 25% digital backers. Some people just love digital. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a good thing to have. Now, I'm surprised more people did not jump on this, which you said you just changed the things.
Yeah, there's actually like a lot more.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Because I mean that is so cool. That the $25, that's a good price. You get the book and a sketch. Not everybody can say, like, let's say this book blows up.
Yeah,
it gets picked up by some big indie. Well, then people will be like, hey, I've got the sketch from when he did the first printing of this. There's only so many books printed, and I've got this. I mean, that's just cool.
Yeah, and see, and I would like. That would be something you hear a lot of people talking, like making fun of, and I do too sometimes because it's how you do it that matters. But building that collectability to some degree, comics are just inherently, that's what's most interesting. It makes them fun because, what's it? What am I going to call my cult? I don't know yet. I haven't decided yet. I want to have that organically happen. It just all of a sudden we're like, oh, that's our cult. Whatever.
Cool.
We gotta wait for a comment or something. But what was I talking about?
We were talking about these sketches and stuff.
Oh, the sketches. Yeah. But collectability, you know. I stopped buying comics for a long time because they're bad.
Yeah.
And so I cannot remember why, but I got really interested in the relaunch of Vampirilla and Red Sonja out of nowhere. I have no idea. And yeah, I don't know why. I must have just saw it. So anyways, I loved buying those alternate covers until I got all the comics, and the comic was terrible. Like,
yeah.
Hauntingly bad. That Vampirilla run, I was so hyped, and they're not going to be watching. Dynamite followed me and stuff because I was all hyped up about Vampirilla and stuff. And then I got the comic and I was like, "Oi, that is bad."
Yeah.
But anyways, I did a review saying how bad it was. It was terribly written. And all I heard was, "Oh, this priest dude, he's amazing." And not for me, I guess. I didn't get it. It didn't really work for me. But enough about those guys. Let's talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
But no, I like the idea of controlled, but variants and those fun things. But like, yeah, the sketches and those little things to include. I like that type of stuff, and I haven't pondered it a lot yet because I'm fighting for my life. I'm like, buy the first thing I did. I'm not to the level. I've thought about variants a little bit, but a lot of that is because there's so many good artists that I only can release so many comics, but I want them on the cover.
Yeah.
There's like issue number 2 of Saving the World has a cover by Sashi, and I love her artwork so much. But then I was like conflicted because I loved Monk's cover on number 1, and then I had this weird OCD thing where I was like, oh, should he have done, like, should I just get him to do all of them and all this? And I freaked out. But then I was like, well, Monk on an alternate cover of a variant, because that's something I kind of want to do. Maybe 1 or 2 of. But anyways.
This right here I also thought was a fantastic deal, where you get the book and an original page.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And there's 2 more of those. So I sold 3 pages, which, that's the weird reality when building tiers. You need some big ones, because if you remove those 3 cells I made of those, that drops me down to 700 or so. And so, those the biggest crowdfunding deals have really big. Now, I'm against some of those feel exploitive, where they're like $1,500 or $2,000, unless there's something really, really worth it. But sometimes I feel that's a little hinky, but I don't know.
Like $3,000 and we'll draw your butt in the comic book.
Yeah, exactly. I just gave all that away. That is in the comic, like, the backgrounds. There's names and there's constant stuff. I could have charged for that, but whatever.
Yeah. Like on Lone Wolf, I sold tombstones, and then we wanted to carry that. I recommended that to Six. He had some gravestones. I was like, man, you should sell a couple of those.
Yeah,
people love being dead in comic books.
Yeah.
So next Lone Wolf is the whole thing's gonna take place in a graveyard. Huge tombstones everywhere.
Yeah. No, I noticed that with the. I have a cat here. Go. But no, yeah, I know the tombstones, and I was like, that is the greatest gimmick I've ever seen. Except for, like, now, like, I don't think you can't do it. Like, you couldn't stop. So now you're gonna have to find a reason why there's tombstones and everything.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I think the next issue of Lone Wolf actually has no gravestones or anything. I might just have to put one just to make us be like, draw some gravestones in this scene.
Yeah, it'll be fine. One of the stores sells gravestones just in the background.
Yeah. Oh man, let's do a flashback where he's in a graveyard.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, oh, time for a flashback. It feels like I did the covers in the back and the background, and like people love that. They were like, that was probably the biggest boost I got, and when I look at the people who are most successful in crowdfunding and stuff, it is
You've got a picture of that, don't you, on here?
Yes. Maybe? I'm guessing I did. Wait, maybe it's the
too far.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, and so I had 0 response originally when I posted it on Twitter saying, hey, it's just you. And you said, sure. And then I was like, Sizzle, can I use rodeo hussies? He said, sure. And that's all I had. And I was like, should I just do a whole comic book store full of rodeo hussies? And then a few more people trickled in. And I was like, okay, that might be enough. Then Terry Moore said, oh, use Strangers in Paradise. And that's like my favorite comic of all time. So I was like, what? That is amazing. Well, after that, it was the floodgates open. And so, I love those comics. The problem is the comic page is actually pretty small. So as I was resizing them, I was like, oh, you're not going to see almost any of these. And I felt bad. So I tried to, on that main stack, I wanted to show Protest Girl because it's her. That was the comic I did that inspired me to do Saving the World. But then I had my buds in there, so I have the Rodeo Hussies and Lone Wolf on that main stack, But then, I really wanted to do, and Soulbound is on there, that's right. And I really wanted to do more comic book store, but I ran out of pages in that comic. Like, I did not get all the things I wanted in that 32 pages. There's one page I'd kill to be able to add, but I had pinups that was going to be in there, and nope. Ryan, they're still going to be printed in this deal, but Ryan Faust, he did that color one, which so I'd always was thinking it needs to be on the outside, so I put it on the back page. Then Tony Sizzle had one. It's now the cover. Oh, and the ash can's probably going to be a full-size comic. I don't think anybody complained because I looked up
nobody will complain.
I looked up the pricing. I was like, it's a little different, but when I'm printing that few, it's pennies. It's not no big deal. And I'd prefer. The strategy now is that there is Saving the World, which focuses mainly on Kira and Nora. And originally, it was like every so many issues, different characters take over. But then I wrote 5 issues straight with Kira and Nora. And I was like, that ain't going to happen. I got way too much story to tell about them. So the one that Peter Palmati and Tony Sizzle are doing is going to be, it's not titled yet, but I think it's going to be called Saving the World Shorts. That kind of sounds dumb. It'll be something. Oh, maybe Saving the World Universe, right? Because that's the principal idea is I have a ton of superheroes that I can't afford to hire other people to fully explore, which would maybe down the line. That's what I hope to do down the line, because I have in this one it introduces Stratus, vaguely like Superman, and then Gypsy is in fact a gypsy. And they're very central to the bigger plot and everything. So I'll be able to introduce the whole idea to some degree, which I was worried because Saving the World #1 is kind of comedy. It comes off as funny. There's some emotional stuff a little bit. But I really don't hint at the idea that there's this huge darker universe and there's it's going to get more complex, the morality of it and all that junk. I didn't really hint at that in #1. So I was like, but that's part of the idea that when you read them, it increases a little. I don't. I'm not ever going to jump the shark where all of a sudden it's just depressing. But it'll be much. It's more complex than you first assume, and that was kind of part of the pacing of it all. But then I was like, yeah, but you're selling issue at a time, and so someone who picked up issue 1 and then skips to 4, which you could do because each issue is standalone while being connected, but you'd still go, whoa, this has a slightly different tempo and stuff. But so anyways, the side comics will handle a lot more of that. So I was happy to be able to have Pomadi and Sizzle do the work so I can introduce that thing now instead of down the line. So it kind of encompasses more of my writing, because some of my writing's funny and some of it's very dark and weird. I wanted all of it, and so I actually got that.
That's cool. Matthew Reese says, Tonic, it's too late. I'm already depressed.
Oh, just hold on. I've only begun.
He's only begun to depress you.
Look at that cat. He's doing everything he can to get into the frame.
Like the show's about me.
He's a creep. He's been walking like all around this whole thing until he finally found how to be on camera. But so the extra is that what was the ash can, highly likely to be a full comic, because I just prefer it to be. And Sizzle, he sent me some of the cat really. Sizzle sent me some of the, he has it all laid out. Also, and if the ash can isn't done, because I'll be sending in the full comic to the printers very shortly, in a day or two. And if the ash can isn't done, it depends on when they come back. If I feel like that the ash can, which is now a full comic, is going to be a little later, I'm just going to double ship. So the main comic gets shipped regardless of whether that other one is right on time. Because that was one thing I noticed. A lot of people which have multiple comics or something, they'll just delay and say, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait. I'm like, just ship what you got and ship it again. Yeah, it's a little more in shipping, but guess whose fault that was? This guy's, not the customers. And so, and that's why I included digital with every tier, because everybody reads this thing tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, no. Friday. So everybody's going to be reading it Friday. And so then the physical get printed, which in the future I want to print them ahead of time, because I think I have a pretty good idea of how many I'm going to sell.
Yeah.
Not 1,000. So
you can always just pull like Tim Lim did. They only printed so many. It's like, this is what we got.
Right.
Or not.
And that would, it's still unnecessary. I can't fathom, because I'll just print 300. Because that feels like a good rounded number for unknown reasons. But I'll probably just print 300 once I get them done. And then while I'm still doing the Kickstarter Indiegogo type thing, I'll just do that. And then the day of, ship them out. That'd be a lot less. I'm trying to reduce stress because I don't handle it well. And I've done okay. Finishing the comic first. Good idea.
Yeah. I learned that with the Legends of the Lone Wolf. Yeah. I'm not doing any campaigns, anything until it's completely finished.
Now, and see that, but I feel like it's going to be worth it.
I hope it is. I hope everybody don't get it and go, this is terrible.
Yeah, this is junk. No, because the coolest thing I was thinking about with Legends of the Lone Wolf is, though it had a few trials and tribulations, establishing, I don't want to say it like this because it sounds businessy. Anyways, establishing IP is hard in indie comics. It takes a long time, and you have to release so much content before anybody remembers who your character is, even comics that have been around longer and stuff. Kind of like Regina Rogowski and stuff from Rags, and the bunny. and stuff, a lot of Antarctic Press stuff and whatnot. It's still, higher, low level recognizable. And I mean, those guys are pushing hard to get this stuff established, let alone people understanding who your character is. And that's what I've had a lot of trouble with indie comics is they don't understand they got that one shot. That's it. If they don't establish who their character is, you don't really get to hook them again, or you're starting all over. Anywho, with the Legends of Lone Wolf, man, that launches you so far down the line, because by the time they read that whole comic, they're gonna have a pretty good idea. Which I felt number one did good though, like because for the longest, currently I've only read number one, so but I had a very good grasp of who Lone Wolf was.
Eric Hawkins said, "If Lone Wolf sucks, I'm shooting."
Oh, well, that's like comeuppance.
I probably deserve it. Oh well.
So, yeah. So no, I'm super excited for Lone Wolf. I think it's going to be flipping sweet. The Legends of Lone Wolf.
Yeah, I hope.
And number two, whenever you get around to that.
Yeah, well,
instead of publishing other people's.
Lone Wolf 2 is about halfway inked right now. So
I didn't even know you started. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wrote the script a while back, and Legends of Lone Wolf was taking so dang long. I just wrote the script, and one of the dudes who actually did a story in Legends of Lone Wolf, he's the new artist, and he's like, let's just do it. And so he's actually working with me, and we're going to split whatever we make on it.
And it's cool. Once Legend of Lone Wolf ships 110, 15, 20 pages, you're really like 5 issues in. You just did a bunch at once. And so, because that's my deal, getting this first issue out is, of course, step one. But I have so much more written, and I got to draw it. That, man, it'll be really cool to get to issue 5 is like my first what do they call that? It's like the benchmark or something. Anyways, that's kind of my first deal is, well, get 1 out, and then I have all the story set up to issue 5, and then that's where I'm going to have to kind of adjust which direction I'm going, because I have scripts till 5.
See, originally I was going to do like at least 3 or 4 issues, but then the artist was like, I'm really busy right now.
Yeah.
And I can't really do Lone Wolf. So that book came together, and then the artist just stepped away completely.
Yeah.
And since we were doing this, it actually worked out perfect that I could find a new artist.
Yeah.
I'm not talented like you. I can't draw my own stuff.
I'm a fan's pants. We'll see how, and that is, that's probably the newest thing in underground indie comics and stuff, is being able to be a writer. Before, if you couldn't draw and write, your story just wasn't going to happen unless you got a job somewhere, because it was unrealistic. I can't hardly think of any comics prior to crowdfunding that were underground low print run comics that had a writer and then a different artist. It was just unheard of. So it really limited what types of voices, only artists got to make comics. That's, that was it. Doodlers. And because technically you don't have to, a writer has to know how to draw to do the comic by themselves. An artist don't really have to know how to write, like anything. Image had no writers. There was
some of that stuff.
There was no writers that worked at Image for the first 5 years. It was just writers going, artists going, how hard could it be?
They're just like, let's draw a bunch of poses and try to throw words at it.
Yeah, and then just, just have them scream something like, it's go time. And, and they were really borrowing from who they work for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very obvious Wildcats was X-Men.
Yeah.
And so, Todd McFarlane ended up being a pretty good writer. I wouldn't say like he wouldn't be like he couldn't get a job as a writer if he didn't draw. But when you combine those two things, it's very good. Spawn was really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as 90s image, the first so many issues of Spawn actually really stand up, like a step above everything else.
Yeah, and it's not just Todd's art, it's the worlds that he portrays, I think, I mean, on some, for me, Jim Lee, he can do a splash page, but he's really terrible at sequential art, which, a lot of people just don't care. They're like, the cover looked cool. It's like, oh, sequential art is really important. Because there are people that, Terry Moore, when I read his stuff, his sequential art don't make sense. Like the beat it's like there's a beat to it. And Tony Sizzle, his sequential art is crazy good. And and there's all that stuff that is very important that never gets talked about. People are, they're like, how closely do they look like an image artist? I'm like, who cares? Image don't really exist in that form anymore. Probably for a reason. Everybody drew the same.
Yeah, like one thing I've noticed, like some books, the artist can be amazing, but it looks like almost like a series of still pictures. One thing I really like about the guy I'm working with now, his name's Jameson McCran. He's just a young hippie looking dude that lives in a big city. But I got me one of them big city slippers. But like it's almost like it's animated. You can see the motion in his art. And I was like, man, to me it really took it a step above because you can see the movement in it.
Yeah.
And it actually made me look at comics a different way. As a reader, you don't realize how much work goes into a comic book.
No, you don't.
You pick up a comic book, and I never paid attention to writers and all that crap. I just thought one dude sat down and drew a comic book, and that was it. But it's crazy now seeing all the moving parts.
Yeah, and I take a lot of shortcuts and stuff, which is I probably am far closer to underground than I will be anything else, because there's a lot more guerrilla tactics to it, where it's like I just need to get this thing finished. It don't matter how I do it. And but no, yeah, even then, every aspect of it is incredibly complex, from lettering to the penciling and inking and all these things. And just the writing process of where you write the story, and then you got to break it down into frames and stuff like that, depending on how you and your artist work or whatever. But yeah, it's this insane amount. And even people who do it, even me, every time I draw another page, I'm like, what? It's baffling how difficult it is.
Eric Hawkins says, oh, dang. Now I feel bad. Jim Lee liked my stuff years ago, but told me to work on my sequentials.
Well, I was reading a Batman comic when he moved to DC, and I was like, this guy he don't care what is happening. Everybody's posing weird. He drew, it was Killer Croc, I'm assuming, fighting Batman, but he added so much detail that you couldn't separate what was what.
Yeah.
And it was like a full 2-page splash deal. And it was just to show off his doodles. But it was detrimental. And nothing shows that Jim Lee honestly needs to work on his sequentials, because All-Star Batman by Frank Miller and Jim Lee, which was the worst combination. Who'd come up with that? I'm assuming Jim Lee. But I had to read that comic, like every issue I had to read like 5 times to figure out what was going on. And then like Vicky Vale, like he had Vicky Vale. It's like, dude, you're drawing for Frank Miller. You have to adjust. The mood of Frank Miller is not Image.
I would rather see Frank Miller do Frank Miller, in all honesty.
Oh, that's true. I feel he's likely has trouble drawing.
I'd say he does,
but his last name's like Grandma. I don't know how that is, but anyways, the guy who works with him now draws like Frank Miller in his prime, and it's really cool. So I was happy with his latest deal. He's always had celebrity artists, but they were all really bad until Grandma. Like, they were doing the worst work of their careers.
Yeah, it was like they were trying to do something different, but they weren't doing Frank Miller justice.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite Wolverine ever is Frank Miller's Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
I freaking love his Wolverine.
There's few characters that are relevant now that wasn't actually, reborn. Even like Wolverine, Daredevil, Batman. Pretty much most of the top characters, sure, they existed before Frank Miller worked on them. But did they?
Like they did after he got hold of it.
Was Batman really Batman until year one? Not really. Everything we say about him is Frank Miller's Batman, not really the one that came before,
Yeah, because everybody forgets. Batman killed lots of people in the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
He kicked people off of buildings and threw them off buildings and shot them with guns.
Kicking people off of buildings and stuff was kind of his go-to.
Yeah, he did it a lot.
And justice.
See, like you're saying though, but Frank Miller, his Batman defined the Batman that we know, the modern Batman.
Yeah, because
of course it started. It kind of started in the 60s, 70s. They started changing it, but it was Frank Miller when he got a hold of Batman when it really became the modern Batman.
Yeah, because they did things because they were getting in trouble, but they never did it for a reason. So, like in the first Detective Comics issues, he would maybe shoot somebody, and he'd always punt them off of a building, and then they got in trouble, so they created Robin and be like, hey, there's a little kid there. That makes it better. It's like, I don't know, it feels like worse, but whatever.
Yeah.
So then there's a little kid. Well, then he once the actual Batman comic started, it was all happy-go-lucky and there was no killing. But there was no rule. There was no reason he didn't kill. It was just because they didn't want to get in trouble by parents groups. Yeah. And then they were traveling to space and all this. Well, Frank Miller in the late 80s, he took all that and said, well, I got to make a reason why. Like, why doesn't he kill? And so and you look at modern comics, they're erasing things, not justifying why they are. And I think that's, if you're going to do like remake something or reboot something, you have to be faithful to what has already existed. Don't look at it as a hurdle, look at it as a piece of the puzzle. And that's what Frank Miller did, He said, okay, this is who Batman is. Even if it don't make sense, then my job is to write until this makes sense. And so he had, he goes, well, if you were this guy, you would hate guns because that's what, took his parents from him and stuff like that. So, he did a lot of that. And that's why, you were talking about it. Public domain characters. And
stuff,
that is incredibly fun because we will never be given Batman, but we can steal public domain characters and they can't do nothing about it.
There's actually one that I'm actually talking with a dude and we're going to bring him back and it's going to be fun.
And see, it's the funnest thing ever because you have this puzzle in front of you and you're like, how can I make this either make it relevant or just make it work again? There's a million different ways.
Yeah.
You don't always got to Frank Miller it, but though it's fun to, but you can just bring the guy back. Me and Sizzle did his Red Mask is a old Western comic, and he said, hey, write this for me. And I was like, well, okay, since I say draw this for me. And so I wrote that script, and I just looked at the Wikipedia page. I didn't even investigate too much because I couldn't even find the comics. It was pretty vague. I found a Wikipedia deal, and it described very similar to Batman. There's he has his own Catwoman who's a villain, but then she's a good guy type deal. And And yeah, I just like, oh, I got that greatest story ever. So, but it was so fun using all those elements from these 40s comics and not trying to just erase it and say, that don't make sense, so I'm just going to erase it all, but actually using those pieces. So, yeah, public domain characters are awesome. I hope to do a lot more.
I'm a little stuck on the one I want to do. I don't know if I want to continue his story where it left off, or if I want to bring the character into modern times.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm just really torn on that one.
See, I knew that I wasn't going to return to the character, so I just did like one ultimate story. It's like the big blowout. And because it's only going to be, I think it's 12 pages long. And so I didn't have to worry about it moving forward beyond that, because I didn't imagine I'd get back to it. But no, yeah, that would be even more stressful. Because, oh yeah, you're talking about it because he's like, whether he'd be like frozen, kind of like Captain America, or pass on the mantle and stuff. And it'd be cool if is all of all of them like start off exactly where they left off and continue his adventures and then do that. Nobody's ever completed that story arc. If you could be the first human ever to complete the story arc of passing the mantle without it being passed back, that would be impressive. Yeah. Oh, except for the Phantom, but that's built in.
Yeah.
To the inherent idea. But no, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be fun. So I was looking, and you got another backer while we were talking.
Nice.
So you're at
it's working. 70. Sweet. We're so close. I decided not to set any more goals because I was like so happy at 1,000. I was like, no, I'm gonna leave this. The higher I go, it's fine. But I ain't setting no goals because I could say I achieved all of them.
There you go. Like on Napalm Brothers, I think the death cards were so ambitious. I'm glad that we set it that high. Yeah. I don't know how long it would have taken us to pull that off.
Yeah.
It'd have been insane.
Yeah, and I really have a lot of ideas for. I'm going to experiment with Kickstarter, and because right now I'm going to start on issue 2 immediately. Probably I have a few things because you say the comic's done, but like I've been working on it. I had it technically to where it could be shipped, but I never left the thing alone. So I added a few pages and stuff because I read it over and over, and when I felt like the pacing was dipped or something, I tried to fill that in to make it as smooth as possible. I wanted one more page, but if you add one page, once you're at 32 pages, if you add one, you got to add 3 more because it has to be an even deal. And I didn't have 3 more pages. So yeah, there was one little deal I'd love, but no. When I sent it out to other people to read, they didn't notice, so it's cool.
I'm about to sneeze. I'm muted, but there we go. I'm back. Sneeze. I do the same thing, man. I'll work on a piece of music, and I'm like, it's done. Then the next day, I'm like, is it though? And I open it back up, change stuff, record new parts, and all that.
There's a little bit of fun in polishing because when you start a project, there's a huge amount of work. But when you're polishing, it's like the short term, you just got to do one frame or one this or that. And so it can get addictive, but you can also destroy something by fiddling with it. And
lose some of the magic that was there originally.
Right. And so I behaved myself pretty good because I saw someone, I forget who it was, they were giving tips and they're like, never add pages. And I was like, what? And I was like actively drawing a page when I read that. And I was like, no, I think I kind of need to. And I'm very happy with what I did add. Because I got to, you really got to put as much as you can within those 32 pages.
Yeah.
I would argue 32 is the sweet spot. It's for me. 20 feels way too not enough. I mean, you can't do nothing. You can almost do nothing in 20. Some people can, and if you can pull it off, that's excellent. I can't because I hit 32 pages, and there's still a little bit I'd like to cram in there. But you know, I think 32 was the tradition, you know, and mainstream comics has always just been lazy. And which is weird. I mean, these guys, they're paid a lot of money, and there's a ton of them. There's like 50 people to produce one comic book. And they're like, yeah, but we only do 20 pages a month. It's like, but why? Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hard, but you have these guys that are they're not working somewhere else. You know, they're drawing freaking comic books.
What kills me is there's 20 pages a month with so little story.
Mm-hmm. Well,
now they've just turned it into useless dialogue.
And that would be the one thing well, everybody makes comics however they want, but one thing I would suggest, like if someone's kind of looking for, you know, how should I angle this, is to have a beginning and end in each issue. It can lead somewhere else, and mine do. Like mine have a major story arc that goes over like 20 issues or so. But each one is this very, like there's the end at every issue. I won't let myself do a to be continued. Not saying that's bad. It's just my personal, I said, no. And now I'm like OCD, like, no. I had an issue a story I wrote, but it was broken up into 2 parts. And I said, no, one thing, it was rough. It had some great moments, but I had some leaps of logic there. So I said, I tried to fix it and stuff, and I just kept feeling it. So I threw it out and I started over, and it was 2 issues. It was like, no, it's like 3 issues. I was like, nah. So I said, no, I'm not doing it. I threw it out because, yeah, my whole goal is that for one thing, it's crowdfunding. I want to do bi-monthly. That is my goal, is to reach where I'm releasing a comic book every 2 months. I don't know if I can do that with crowdfunding. It'll probably have to move over to Patreon if that's ever a possibility. But that's my goal. Somehow, well, I mean, the ultimate goal would be monthly, but that's not practical. But 2 months, every 2 months. Like, I mean, indie comics, that was traditional, just bi-monthly. And now it's every 2 years, bi-yearly release. But that's what I hope to get to. But yeah, trying to, you know, hit the reader really hard with every issue. Whereas, you know, mainstream comics, I think a lot of their bigger problems is they're writing comics like like Netflix streams TV shows, where like every episode is to be continued and tells you nothing. Yeah. And their theory is that drags you into the next one. But for me, I just go, no, if you can't tell a story in 30 minutes, leave me out of this. I'm busy.
See, like the first Lone Wolf, it ends and it's a self-contained story, but I continue the story in the second one. So, yeah. But we kind of cheated, and the second one does end kind of on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But that's because I want to do a 48 pager, and it just takes too long to do 48 pages.
Yeah.
So we just cut it in half. It's just the way it's going to have to be.
And, you know, there's a sacrifice to everything, because it is true. If everybody did the self-contained deal, then a guy like me would be like, we need to start doing more complex stories that don't just wrap up in 32 pages. It's just because I'm contrary. But
everybody likes what they like, you know. Yeah. And some books I like that. I get tired of modern comics because I never can keep up with actually picking them up. So I always miss the story. And what I hate is, like, I got Ghost Rider #1. It's a #1, and it's continued from some other Ghost Rider series. I don't know what's going on right at the start.
I don't think it's possible to jump into a mainstream comic without this massive amount of conflicting backstory. they can't even keep it straight. And so there is no, that was the biggest problem with a lot of this stuff in the past 10 years, even probably prior to that, was it was nothing was self-contained. And that's about the only comics I read, though, are the self-contained runs, which are rare. Palmatti's Power Girl and Ed Brubaker's Catwoman. I think I posted these on Twitter. You don't have ever had to have read anything about any of these characters before. You'd never had to read a comic book before. Just know what a superhero is. And if you read them, you get, that's all you need. It's a very self-contained thing. And they'll hint at the greater universe a little bit whenever they have an event or something. But generally, you can just read those through. But they're the most impactful. Some people hated Grant Morrison's New X-Men. I love the living hell out of it because I never read X-Men. So I could see a longtime fan because it just really shifted everything. But you can just read Grant Morrison's run. And not only that, he retcons it at the end. Like the final issue says, Bwah! Like he ripped his story's own guts out and said, now you can't screw with it because I killed it myself. It was kind of a weird deal. But, you know, those, I love those runs. And that is, you know, they had to be continues, but it wasn't this weird interconnected thing, which indie comics couldn't even do if they wanted to. But it'd be hard to get that complex. But yeah, and it depends on the story. For me, I was very interested in roughly how Golden Age comics worked, even 80s comics and stuff like that, to where they had these, each issue was a thing. Like each issue was more like a movie than a TV episode. But it is, yeah, I read things that, like Red Sonja and stuff. It's just an ongoing story. It's good, but to be fair, I stopped reading it and I loved it because I just got off track. So
yeah.
But
well, see, when I was a kid, I couldn't get comic books because we were poor. Every once in a while, I could go to Walmart and get one off the rack when Walmart actually sold them.
Yeah.
So, like for birthdays and Christmas and stuff, my grandparents would buy me old comic books, you know, whatever. And one Christmas, my grandma Stevens, she bought me like a box full of 80s Spider-Man comics. And it's like you were saying, every comic is like an episode of a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Spider-Man. We know who Spider-Man is. You kind of know his history. And it's like a different villain every book. There's no to be continued.
Right.
This book he runs in the 80s, Silvermane was one of his big villains. It's Silvermane here, Kingpin here, you know, Electro in this one, Hobgoblin in this one. There was no big arc that, you know, you had to keep up with everything. And I guess that's why I hate modern comic books.
Well,
I can't get into them.
Well, it's boring because it's like taking a movie. So you have a movie where every movie has this arc and then the crisis and then, you know, the resolution and stuff. I feel comics are the most interesting and the funnest, usually, when each issue has the arc, you know, like every issue I have has a new villain show up. And I haven't written any that repeat because I've only written to issue 5 and I have to 10 planned out. So there's no really reason to recycle a villain. But, but each issue, introduces either a new villain or like not every issue is them punching people. It usually is, but there's one or two that are just a different situation. But that makes it exciting. So like when you see a movie, like when I was a little kid, and they go, oh, Batman, like the first Batman movie had Joker. And it's like, who's going to be in the next one? Penguin and Catwoman. And, you know, it was exciting that there was these, it adds value, you know, so your comic has value if it's a self-contained thing to where, you know, a modern comic, if they said, oh, Batman number whatever, you go, who cares? It's nothing. It's just part of a bigger thing.
Yeah.
And larger story arcs are important. in modern comics to some degree to keep people reeling in. Take some weight off your shoulders too, because not every issue is going to be that home run. So you want something to kind of reel them in. But for me personally, I've struggled with when they write a really long story and then chop it into pieces.
Yeah, it's like they take a movie and they show it on TV once a week, but you only get 25 minutes of it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Like watching a movie 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And you get 10 minutes a month for $4.
Yeah.
And it kills the momentum for me. And it puts so much weight on every issue, especially that final one. So like when I was reading Tom King's Batman,
I'm sorry.
I know. I was when he was doing that isolated standalone thing, like he did. It was an issue called Super Friends, and it was Batman and Catwoman and Superman and Lois Lane go to a carnival or something, and it's just Batman and Superman talking about how they're friends or something. It actually works really good. It was a really good issue. Anyways. But the whole time he's hinting towards this relationship between Batman and Catwoman that has been going on for, 80 years, but with no conclusion, just this indefinite. And it always ends horribly, right? So longtime fans were pretty weary. We had a movie where it's like, oh, she's dead. No, she's alive. But anyways, we're not making a sequel to that. Or we're not carrying on that story. And the comics were always exactly... In fact, Batman Returns did it exactly like the comics do. She'll die, and then by the time they get around to it, they've retconned everything, and it's a new Catwoman. And they build up to this wedding issue, and I was pretty dang hyped. I was like, well, this is interesting.
A lot of people were. Were.
And I would argue it shook the industry because DC was dominating sales, and that issue dropped. And the backlash was legendary.
It was on the news how people were so angry about that.
Yeah. And Tom King was like, well, what did I do? It's like, no, dude.
What you did, Tom King.
Yeah, that was the cheapest hit towards fans I've ever seen in my entire life. And he was like, well, I'm telling this greater story. Oh yeah, but
Batman is a brooding emo for
He's
20 years.
It's gonna be a final battle between him and Bane. It's like, how original. Where'd you come up with that?
Yeah.
All the other comics and movies. But
the 90s called, they want Bane back.
That's right. It was so frustrating. Anyways, yeah, I quit. I didn't read past then. I read 2 or 3 issues more.
How great would it have been had they actually got married and they caused Batman to grow as a character? How great would that have been?
Yeah, and see, I was picturing like Catwoman and Damian. So Damian is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, but trained as an assassin. He has a very similar emotional construct to Catwoman, to where they want to be good, but they come from a different angle of that.
Yeah.
And could you imagine that boy who's being, he's surrounded by goody two-shoes like Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne, how he would connect with his stepmother, right? This is an amazing dynamic of stepmother and stepson bonding over these similar dark pasts and stuff. Yeah. I was so excited. I was like, I know they ain't going to do it, but that's what I would do. And, they didn't do any of that because they're idiots.
Like, the last time when you could still get a subscription and they sent books to your house is what last time I was actually collecting comics, which was pre-New 52. But that run where Batman disappears and they had the battle for the cow and Dick Grayson took over as Batman, him and Damian, that was one of the greatest things that ever happened to Batman.
No, definitely. It was the first time that I was like, depressed that Bruce Wayne was coming back, because before you just waited, you're like, oh, this is dumb and terrible. But when Dick Grayson had to do the one thing in his life he's never wanted to do, not only does he have to wear that damn suit, he has to raise Bruce Wayne's crazy son.
And he absolutely Dick doesn't hate Damian, but Damian actually, he hates Dick
because it's his older brother that has this limelight,
the golden child,
exactly the person Damian has to prove himself to, and it was Grant Morrison. That guy can write really good, especially. I'm going to hazard a guess that Frank Quitely writes a lot more. He only gets credited with the art. But if you've read Grant Morrison without Frank Quitely, all of a sudden he writes like Rob Liefeld. But then when Frank Quitely shows up, he's all of a sudden like Alan Moore. And you're like, what's that all about? Because like the introduction of Damian that was written by Grant Morrison, it wasn't great. It made weird decisions, kind of like how they're like, oh, he's not born traditionally. He's like a test tube baby. It's like, why are you adding sci-fi to something as simple as childbirth?
Yeah.
No, you have two people mate and produce an offspring. Don't add science fiction where it doesn't need to be. Exactly. But they did that.
They didn't want a dirty Batman.
Right. So
Batman he's never done that.
Yeah, because nothing's better than a 50-year-old virgin Batman.
No wonder he's so emo and brooding all the time.
And it's weird because it's like there was a conflict of interest because it showed like him and Talia all romantic and stuff, but then said, "Oh, anyways, it's a test tube baby." It's like, why? It was insane. But no, yeah, that was another run that you don't even have to read and understand where Bruce Wayne is. You get the idea he's dead, and you just read that the Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin, and each issue was very, you got a full meal there with every issue. It's very interesting.
I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about how good I've got all those. I need to dig them out.
Yeah,
but at that point in time, man, he was killing it. All the Bat books were good.
Yeah.
And then it's like they brought Bruce Wayne back, and then just New 52'd it, and I was done. Mm-hmm. I was completely done.
Because he did a lot of interesting things with what was it? Batman Incorporated.
I was kind of dumb.
Yeah, it was a little dumb. There was interesting things that, like, the bigger Batman nerd you are, the more interesting it was because he brought these characters back that hadn't been seen since the 40s. And that was more, he was going through an encyclopedia thing where he was like, this is how much I know about Batman. Indian Batman. It's like, what is that? He's like, it was a thing. and so, it was interesting, but certainly wasn't his greatest work. But he, there was something else. Oh, the Black Glove. And he did where, they break Batman's mind, but come to find out he built a backup mind, which was a psychopath. I loved that.
I love the costume.
Yeah. And I can't pronounce what it was, but the Batman of Azarath or something.
Yeah, something like that.
No, that was a good, and that's what I think New 52 lacks with Batman. Its biggest problem is what's fun is the underdog, and it don't work in other countries. That's an inherent American thing that we're addicted to underdogs, and that's why Batman beats Superman always. People are like, that don't make no sense. It's like in America, Batman will always win because any story written by an American has a person who should not be able to win. That's not going to happen, and then does. And the Matrix with Neo and all this stuff. We love Mary Sue's, ironically, and it's become a big deal. But it's like, no, it's all we want. The person who's chained to the chair and it's over for them. And then all of a sudden they have that last ditch effort of like that little steam and they break the chains and jump out. Americans freak out over it.
Yeah. And it's about digging down and getting that good old American grit.
That's exactly right. And it's funny how poorly that works everywhere else in the world. They're like, why is that guy? How is he even like Superman, for instance? Not
They've all been crushed and dominated by their government.
that's right. They want to see the best guy win because that's what they've been raised to believe. For us, it's always the little guy. Even Superman himself, like in every Superman movie, they shoot him like with a kryptonite bullet, and then they put a necklace of kryptonite over it, and it's like it just pisses him off. You've never seen a stronger Superman than one that's about dead. Like,
yeah,
Superman Returns, he gets shot and then lifts a continent. It's like, what?
yeah.
Maybe it may. Has he ever
That movie was terrible.
It was, but it makes you think kryptonite actually makes him stronger because
it's just Benadryl. It makes him sleepy and then he gets mad.
Yeah, he gets upset.
I'm so grumpy. I gotta sleep, and he just destroys everybody. Oh man. So I need to drop the link in the chat. I checked. I don't know if you let me see. I don't think it's went up anymore, but people, if you have not backed Saving the World yet, go and check it out. There's a $5 digital. I mean, it's $5. If you got $5 and you want to get a cool comic to read, pick that up.
Yeah. And it will, it will lead somewhere. So, that's the
I'm waiting for you to release like 5 variants.
Mm-hmm.
And, do the chromium cover and all that stuff.
I like variants that are art, like getting interesting weird artists that you wouldn't have as the primary on variants. I don't really care for the materials, like it's made out of something as much, but also I don't like the sketched covers where you have the one that's in color, then you have the one sketched. That feels hinky. That's not literally sketched, though. Like, if it was actually hand-drawn, that'd be something. But I'm not so much for when they load it in Photoshop and then change the hue and then say variant. It's like, well, yeah, technically it is.
Yeah. Like on the Lone Wolf I've done, I technically have 3 variants. I have the main cover. Well, actually, there's 4. I have the main cover. I have a cover by Muttman, who's the artist on Hero. Then I've got J. Paul Sheep, and then Ashcan Comics Pub. They do like little mini-size comics like this.
Yeah.
They released the Lone Wolf, and Nate Lindley did a cover for it.
See, and I really like that stuff because it gives you opportunities to do things you maybe wouldn't choose to do as your main primary deal.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, this guy's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I want him to do this cover just because it's cool.
Yeah.
We're not like I didn't print like 1 million of them. There's not going to be I think I've got like maybe 50 of one and like 20 of the other.
Yeah. And we know there's too many definitives in things, where people say this is always horribly wrong because it's easier to say that. It's harder to be like, well, it depends. When it is. And people hate that when you say, yeah, it depends a little bit, but you'll know it when you see it, kind of like, let's just say I had a bunch of money and I chose a character that had nothing to do with mine or my publishing company, and I put them on the cover, right? Say as Vampirilla. That would be exploitive. That character's not even in your comic book. You don't have any type of relationship with them whatsoever. That's just to try to reach mainstream for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
They're not in the interiors.
I would be mad if a 10-year-old Doug, if he got a comic book and it had something on the front and it wasn't in the comic, I would be mad.
Yeah. And see,
I was aggravated when they drew a scene on the cover and it showed up in the comic. I was like, where is this scene at?
Right, right. No, and so, we know it when we see it. And so, there is a lot of, I would never say anything is inherently bad or wrong. But yeah, we know it when you see it. You got to be a little bit careful and going, well, maybe we don't have enough fans to exploit, though. That is that's the bigger deal. When you see something, you go, that kind of, these guys have a really large And there's even comics I support and stuff where I feel like they're borderline exploiting this fan base a little bit. Sometimes, like Lady Death, sometimes those campaigns feel a little taking advantage of people a little bit. Well, spam risk. But Polito's a fine guy though. Actually, no, he treated me like crap.
Oh, really?
It's funny. I respect his business sense. You know, he held on to Lady Death because he knew that's all he needed. But you know, his ship sunk with everybody else's in the late '90s, and he had to sell something to pay the bills and get out of debt. So he sold everything, but he held on to Lady Death, and he just coasted that whole thing until he could make his big comeback. Very respectful. However, I was at a comic book convention, and he was a huge jerk. He was like talking on the cell phone the whole time, and he wouldn't like even look at people. And then he'd just get up and walk off all the time. And yeah, he was not a great host.
Maybe it was one of those ex-girlfriend things, you know, like maybe you know how girlfriends would call and you're like, oh, you have to deal with it. And he's just like, oh.
She was his girlfriend was standing behind him, and she was
maybe it was the other one.
And she was just doing this, looking at the fans like this.
Like, hurry up so we could go to old Charlie's.
Well, these creepy nerds. And but anywho,
who else is going to go and see Brian Polito but creepy nerds?
That's pretty much it.
I like that lady you draw with
the boobies. I don't know what their story is. I've read a lot of Lady Death, and I don't know what it's about. There's hell, and she's running around doing things, but I've never really felt like I grasped what the hell that comic's about.
I think you got what it was about.
It's pretty much, it's like Megadeth with more boob. But so let's see. I'm very excited because, you know, Friday everybody gets the digital.
Well, somebody else is just going to be getting it because you went up another $5.
Nice. We need to do this for the next 30-some hours. Can we turn on those super chats?
Yeah, somebody send super chats.
Send super chats, please.
Eric Hawkins says only O'Charlie's on Tuesdays for free pie. I can't eat free pie. I'm too fat. I have to avoid O'Charlie's on Tuesday now. I
could get fatter.
I could too. I'm trying not to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the goals. We should deliberately. We should become the same weight.
Well, then I need to lose some weight because you definitely don't need to gain any because whoa. I'm trying to remember how Chris Farley used to put it. I've got a lot of donuts lodged.
Oh, yeah. Right here.
Leave me alone. I'm starving.
And Sizzle needs to grow a beard.
Yeah, what's the deal with Sizzle not having a beard?
I don't know. He's messing up the whole thing. I've never seen Illustrator Monk, but I bet he looks just like us.
With a beard.
Yeah. So, so yeah, that digital ships out, and evidently one more, and Friday. So then I'll find out how this thing goes over. So, you know, that's pretty exciting. I
can't wait to get the physical. I love physical books.
Yeah,
I want in my hand.
I was just thinking about that today. You know, it don't really sink into your head that you'll have this giant stack of these things. And so, you know, I was like, that's gonna be pretty sweet.
I've got boxes. There's 4 boxes over there, and there's a huge stack over there, and a stack over there of Lone Wolf comic books.
Yeah,
I ordered 1,000. I wish I never would have ordered 1,000. That
is amazing.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I'm going to have Lone Wolf books for the next 5 years, probably.
I mean, you'll always have them, though. So
I always have 4 or 5 boxes in my closet.
That's right. And and that was where I was like, I'll do 300. I would like to do more, really, because it's cheaper the more you do. What kind of there's shipping? I found there's shipping things you gotta be careful with. Like if I did 300, it was cheaper than 500 because shipping takes a huge leap when you go over 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You can't shoot a digital.
Yeah.
You can, but it's your computer, so
Or your
laughing
phone.
now.
I've got an old cell phone somewhere.
Someone shooting their cell phones. That'd be excellent.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Nobody's noticed me so far, so nobody's been attacking or coming after me or nothing.
Just wait. I'm promoting you now, so they'll be like,
it's only a matter of time.
Talk to that Doug Garrett. He's a bad dude.
My God, everybody's been spamming this thing. If they're not privy to it yet,
no.
It wasn't from lack of trying.
Well, I've got everybody blocked now. There's people ranting today about blocks on Twitter, and I'm like, who cares? Half the writers that I love, I don't know if they're even on Twitter, and if they were, I don't care. I'm just going to read their stuff and enjoy it.
Yeah. See, a lot of that's something I think people should, we never had social media. It's not like suddenly readers become weird. It's that we didn't know, and there's a lot of like Bill Cosby a little. He's an extreme version, but you get the gist of it. I usually use Mel Gibson. I probably don't. He's occasionally done things because of this or whatever. He's kind of crazy, but I love his work so much. And there's probably better examples of people. He's got mental health issues. That's not really his fault, but those people you agree with. But for me, like this past 2 weeks, I've seen hilarious things, and I would digital variants. Yeah. Yes. That's a good idea. I'll charge $7 for the digital variant.
There you go.
It'll be chrome embossed. You can see it.
I'll draw it, so that'll be even better.
Booyah. Guest artist Doug. But I saw, last week there was the big deal with Sean Gordon Murphy. So this person who works at Image and this guy that works at Marvel, that seems like professionalism would say, you shouldn't make huge declarations to try to get a competitor fired. They did, though. And so, anyways, they make the big stink about him drawing that cover, which was dumb, unprofessional. And everybody gets worked out because they're like, well, that Earthworm Jim guy, he believes some things and all this. It's like, yeah, but who cares? That's none of your business, and it don't matter. He can do whatever he wants. And just don't buy the comic book would be the best solution.
Yeah, if you don't want to support the dude, just don't buy his stuff.
Just don't buy it. That's what it is. If you feel, and that's like for me, I wouldn't say, oh, I ignore how people behave. No, I pay attention. I just choose that it's not for me. But that's, everybody else makes up. They go on huge campaigns to make sure everybody else feels the way they do. Don't support that person because they believe something.
And they do 6-hour live streams and say, this guy don't like me, so don't like him.
Right. And they make a big stink about it. Now, to be fair, that was last week. Now this week, somebody else got themselves in trouble being stupid or saying things on Twitter, right? Dan Slott. Here's my deal. Those are it's a little different. So Sean Gordon Murphy got in trouble by association. He didn't say nothing, but let's just say Doug Tonicmole. He has his beliefs or whatever, which aren't brand new. If you ever lived anywhere outside of California and New York, it's like, that's just pretty normal. So anyways, but they act like, oh my, he's crazy. And but anywho, they say, well, what he says on videos and online, I don't appreciate that, and I think we should punish him and everybody he's associated with. And everybody, we all agree, well, that's pretty stupid. Dan Slott. Now, I like Dan, like, I don't read a lot of Marvel or DC for that matter, especially not Marvel. I just never much into it. But I loved his run on She-Hulk. I'm sure there's things, I think he did things with Spider-Man that really teed off Spider-Man fans.
He ruined Spider-Man. So
yeah. So, but I don't read that. I don't read Spider-Man, but I read She-Hulk and I liked it. Like, he may tee off people, but his writing on that She-Hulk, he's evidently a pretty good writer. He captured this really complex thing with updating She-Hulk while keeping it very true to She-Hulk at the exact same time. His run was everything everybody's demanding right now, because now she's this huge hulking monster. And everybody's like, no, you can't just throw away everything. Well, he did it. She was this, because instead of throwing everything away, he said, how would that affect you if you could become an awesome person, but you were forced to become your normal self sometimes? And that's the deal. She never wanted to become Jennifer. She always wanted to be sexy She-Hulk. He captured it perfectly. And then they had those covers by Horn something. I forget that guy's name. So anyways, Greg Horn. Anyways, so, I like the guy. I muted his Twitter, of course. Oh my God, it is just stupid politics 24/7, but I don't buy the guy's Twitter feed in comic book form.
One of my best friends is the same way. I mean, I love the dude. I'll hang out with the dude 24 hours a day, but his social media is just politics all the time. I don't watch the news. I don't care.
Right. And see,
I don't want to hear about politics.
There's creators within even the little Indieverse deal. Oh hell yeah, I got him muted because I like the people and I don't want to fight with them over stupid stuff or just see it all constantly in my feed. I want to see the comic projects. And there's some people that it's almost, there's this one guy, he has this awesome comic. I don't even know if it's out yet, but it is constant fighting and politics and just random stuff. Like he just scrolls, like searches things and then freaks out constantly. I gotta mute him because I'm just like, dude, you use Twitter terribly.
And he doesn't understand now that you won't see when he has a new project unless somebody else shares it,
right?
Because he wants to talk about nonsense all the time,
right? And and I did a little funny thing over the few days ago. I said, if we want to fight or do anything like that, you got to do it in comic book form. And like you do a comic strip expressing yourself. And that that is how you should do it. Nothing but gingers all day long. But but anyways, the irony is that everybody that was upset about Sean Gordon Murphy and Doug Apple was like, yeah, screw Doug, Dan Slott. It's like, no, that's the same thing. Hey, just mute the guy. Yeah, his feed is toxic, and he's just raging on there. Arguably, yes, he is dramatically worse than Doug Apple. Don't say nothing. He just talks about his comic book. That is fair. But, you're saying, well, it's because he expresses the opinion too much. It's like, well, that wasn't the argument. We didn't say, well, it's okay because Doug Apple don't talk about it that much. No, we said it don't matter because he's free to believe what he wants and do whatever he wants. It's about the comic book, whether it matters. And, that's a big thing right now. And I think we try to separate that there's sides, but I don't think there is. I think there's culture. Culture and society behaves certain ways all together, but then like that Spider-Man pointing at each other, it's kind of like that. Yeah. But yeah, the power of the mute, and if worst case, sometimes I gotta block dudes. It's rare.
I don't care to have discussions with people. Yeah. I've changed my mind, about things. But there's some people who have no intent to discuss anything.
Mhm.
They just want to belittle you.
Yeah.
First time somebody comes at me and drops an F-bomb,
Mhm.
block them.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I use Twitter to, sometimes I get into it. Sometimes I express my opinions. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, I got mad about the Sean Gordon Murphy thing. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to buy his comic books.
Mhm.
Poop on him. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? You give me a couple days to get over it. And I'm like, okay, it's cool. I understand what's going on. I might go ahead and buy that comic. That's just
Right.
me, you know?
Right. And, you know, I'm the same way. I'll get really irate about something, or I'll try to be too moderate. And then everybody's teed at me. I'm like, what did I do? And I'm just, me and Sizzle was talking about how when you have that thing where you like to be contrary, but you don't even know it. So sometimes you're just saying the opposite of people because you think that sounds like a good idea. But no, there is no, there is a lot of those things, and it's very difficult to manage them because it's so fiery, I guess, is what it is. But and you know, it is interesting because it's like Theo Thursday is like an experiment in my mind, right? It's silly and it's crazy, but there is something really there that's inherent to everything we're dealing with. Can you separate one of the greatest sitcom characters of all time, easily the greatest, from the worst? The contrast is so dramatic because it's not. You got Dan Slott who's like, "Here's my political beliefs and I'm crazy." That's one thing. He's just saying stuff.
Yeah.
And his comics are, you know, about that good. But then you have Bill Cosby with the extremes are so extreme, the best of the best, and he does the most horrible things ever. But there, you know, that's an extreme version, and I think everybody has to come to their own conclusion about that. But we're not all. That's rare. That's rare where you're like, well, this person created such great art, but they ended up being Charlie Manson.
Yeah.
No, that's rare though. When we should really look at that and go, yeah. If you hesitate for a second and go, Cliff Huxtable, how he's very important to society. Can we? It's not like he's still doing that. It's not like he gets paid for that in jail. Is it kind of okay? If we can do that, we sure as heck can go, can Dan Slott be a butthole on Twitter?
I mean, like if you look at the art and the artist, people can do bad things, but you look at their art and you can see that there's good in that person.
Yeah.
And that's something people need to remember. If you look at everything Bill Cosby ever did and the positive messages he had, there's a dark side there.
Yeah.
We all have that. We all can cross a line.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary to think about, but you know, I still like to celebrate the good of Bill Cosby. I just can't help it.
And you know, and it is weird because that thing that made all of that work so well was this dark side, right? So you look at when Theo says, maybe you could just love me for how I am. And he goes, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard my whole life. And it's ironic that what made that character work and feel so relatable was it was this family man, but there was a hard edge that has never been on TV before. You know, where no, you're not always saying, yes, son, you're right. You say, no, that's stupid. You need to work harder. And, you know, and I think, and artists do have to, you know, it goes into the artist's lab to go, some people will have problems because eventually, yeah, it is hard to separate some of these things, you know, and even subconsciously, it's going to taint what you're reading, you know. There was someone talking is about comedians, mainly writers and stuff, that the most offensive humor, the reason it works is because the person telling the offensive jokes or writing them or something, and the audience accept that they're in on it's just a joke, you know? But if someone said the same things and you go, I don't think they're joking, I think they're that horrible, it's not funny anymore. The joke is, we know it's horrible, we don't mean it.
Well, it's like people telling Bill Cosby jokes now.
Right.
We're all in on the joke at this. I mean, what he did was terrible.
Right.
When you hear the jokes, you still laugh. Michael Jackson, same way.
Right.
And laugh when you hear the jokes.
And you know, there's South Park and stuff like that. Some of the jokes, if you thought Trey Parker and Matt Stone were really meant the certain things, or you know how they phrase things, you might go, oh no, I don't know about that. But you know that they're joking, where everybody's in on the joke. And when an artist, you know, an artist is a brand. And so even though I would say, yeah, we need to, as audiences and customers, we need to be more open to the idea that you got to separate the artist from the art a little bit. On the other hand, the artist needs to not be a psychopath. That would go a huge, long way so that the audience don't have to work so hard.
Well, one thing that gets me is, why is it so important in your comic book who wrote it and not in your movies? Have you been like, oh, I'm going to go see this movie because Bill Johnston wrote it?
Right.
You know who wrote the script?
No, rarely. And comics are the same way, but it's a reverse thing. Movies, you know who directed it.
Yeah.
I mean, usually, sometimes no. If it's a crappy movie, you don't care. But you know, if a superhero movie's coming out, Marvel maybe no. I could name 5. I could name 2 or 3 of the directors from Marvel. But with a lot of movies, you know who directed it, but you don't know who wrote it. You don't know who's the cinematographer. You don't know anything about the people that actually made the movie. You just know the guy who takes credit. Well, comic books, there's you'll know the writer more often than not, but it's the artist that is actually selling the comic. And the artist, unless they're a big name, usually they get second billing, and that seems strange. But no, comics do benefit from the fact that, except for a few, Rob Liefeld, you know, he could cool his jets a bit. But and he's a great example, you know, of who knows what his belief system is. It seems all over the place.
Oh, he cracks me up on Twitter
by the day. And you know, he's something, because whenever he was out, like it was, everybody forgot his name before. He was just watching TV shows and then tweeting about them. Like he was doing reviews, and that's what he did. And Deadpool, the movie, had not come out, and it wasn't even announced or something. And that's just all he did. And he was super nice to everybody. And he was this very kind and patient and all this stuff. I was like, well, that's cool. Rob Liefeld chilled out. You know, he got older and all this. Deadpool comes out. And you start to hear slowly, you know, I sold 3 million issues. So you don't tell me. My success is...
He still does that quite a bit.
Oh, the more Deadpool the movie got made successful than the sequel, the guy just went. Like it churned, and he become classic Rob Liefeld, for better or for worse.
What kills me though is he goes back between those two extremes all the time.
Oh yeah.
He actually shared my comic book one day, and it was really, really nice about it and everything. And then, like, you know, like you wait a day or two, and it's like, you're so stupid. I sold all the X-Men. I made the X-Men what they are.
Yeah, I invented the comic book. Young punk. And he's and now, no, I do not believe that the people attacking him is even mildly justified. He's crazy, yeah, but he kind of has this weird, it's an ego where, you know, he has, like, he doesn't feel that, and so he projects it even harder. But you know, no, you look at his comic books, and, you know, people go, he can't draw hands and feet. It's like, obviously he can. He drew he drew hundreds of issues of comic books. What happened was any artist, no matter how good you are, if you're releasing 5 issues in 1 month, some of it's going to be bad. Rob Liefeld is a very good artist. And there are images. Everybody looks up at the stupid Captain America. It's like, well, if you can't find another one, yeah, he drew 1 or 2 bad things. But, there's this page it was like the first page of one of the Captain America where he has his arm around some guy's throat and he's all, best Liefeld thing I've ever seen. But nobody shares that. They share the things that, everybody goes, oh, his chest is weird. Which, yeah, it certainly is. But he had a staff. The chances someone else actually drew that to look like Rob Liefeld is very high because he was 21 years old and started a company, a whole studio, and it was just whatever to get those pages out. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's unfair. And because, man, he gets abuse like you wouldn't believe. But everybody else at Image is like a golden god to everybody. Yeah. But Rob Liefeld just gets beat to hell. And I'm like, oh, no, that seems a little.
I think it's because he's the one that he's kind of fallen from grace with everybody there for a while.
Well, he's not. He isn't innocent in it because the reason people attack him because his ego, especially back then, got out of control. Because to be fair, no, Todd McFarlane is like the king of the whole thing. And then there's Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, and then Mark Silverstraw, I think it was.
Eric Larson.
Yeah, Eric Larson. So there's kind of a tier, and Rob Liefeld liked to try to knock Todd McFarlane off the top of it. And it's like, I don't know, dude. He has something, that hyper extreme excitement that is, it's kind of a charismatic type thing, and it's kind of interesting. But yeah, for me, it was J. Scott Campbell, which is still doing his thing, no problem. Gen 13 defined Image for me because I did like Spawn, but it was Gen 13 for me all the way. And but anyways, yeah, Rob Liefeld. But yeah, separating the deal. But the artists got to be aware that their hot takes on stuff, if it's not on, we're running a business here. Hey, we're running a business here. We're trying to run a business here. And people, I should be able to say what you want. It's like, you can. But, is that what you're trying to do? Is that what you're doing? Like, is that your job? Is hot takes on Twitter? And I'm like, I can be terrible. I say stupid stuff. I delete it later. And
I'm stupid all the time, 24.
And it is a balance because you can't just promote all the time because you'll get muted faster for spamming than you will. You got to find creative ways to promote your comic, and which is hard to do, but that's a deal. Don't just spam people, but then don't get too. And that's a great example where someone, there is no hard line. You've got to do lots of things. You've got to be a little personal. You got to put yourself out there because indie comics, you don't got Marvel and DC doing ads for you. You've got to draw people in for you and stuff. So there's a little bit of connection there. But at the same time, you can't just, bear everything all the time because we can be just like we were saying, we'll have something we feel really passionate about, and then 2 days later we're like, oh no,
you change your mind all the time,
right? And it sucks to pay, and I have certainly paid a price for something I changed my mind on. So our opinions will have a price, and so it's good to wait a hot minute and say, does my current opinion, is it worth the money? Like, if you had a price tag on every opinion you're going to post on Twitter, like, oh, you'll lose 20 followers. You're like, I feel like my opinion of Arby's isn't worth that. I'm not going to speak up. I'm going to move on. And, that type of deal, if we knew the price to be paid on stuff, we might go, maybe I won't fight about Batman versus Superman anymore.
And see, and you're not being dishonest about yourself.
Right.
You know, because I try to present who I am. If you watch my stream and it's an hour and a half of me being stupid, I'm a stupid person. That's who I am. But you know, I try to be honest. But you do, like you're saying, you need to pick your battles.
Yeah.
You need to watch what you say. That's not selling out what you believe.
Right.
But sometimes you don't need to fight a battle if there's no battle there to fight.
Right. Tact. And you can you can be more successful in expressing your opinions, you know, as a crying wolf and all that type of stuff. If someone always complains, I ignore their opinions easily. There's tons of people on Twitter that, you know, they'll go, here's my hot take on Rise of the Jedi or whatever that movie was, Skywalker. Well, I'm going to ignore that because they complained about all the Star Wars movies. You know, that's a good example of if it's always just anger or rage or all that type of stuff, people tune you out. So you might as well not even do it no more because you're preaching to the choir, which is 90% of what people do. But, you know, I think for normal people on Twitter, it don't do whatever you want. It don't matter. But like if you're an artist and you're trying to make money and you not just make money, you're trying to express yourself, even if you don't care if you make money. Your brand is very important. Like make sure you're on the point of what you're trying to discuss. I'm a great example of that. You've seen me ramble for hours on end, and I'll start on a certain point and then ramble off. Twitter is very similar to that. You know, we ramble about things. I caught myself in the middle of another frickin' Zack Snyder thing, and I was like, "What? That's not." There's tons of these things where I get like mainstream comics or something. I'm like, "What? I don't care about. Why am I on that? I'm trying to sell my own comic book." When we complain about DC and Marvel, we are promoting DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
Anytime we complain about something, we just sold a couple more issues for them, and we see that in reverse, right? When someone attacks one of us or something, we sell more issues. That's right. Let's get this thing done. And so, you know, that's something people got to keep in mind, that these attacking people rarely, there'll be benefits and stuff, but Marvel and DC, just lack of sales hurt them. The reason they made changes wasn't because a bunch of people on Twitter complained about them, is that a bunch of people across the United States stopped buying comics. You don't have to promote not buying. You're not going to convince someone to stop buying a comic that they're enjoying. They just will stop. You know, it's just natural. If you don't like something, you'll naturally stop. You don't need a boycott or a hashtag or something to get you to stop. You'll just not like it. And in fact, if people don't stop buying it, there's no harm. You know, if there's enough people to justify it, who cares?
I'll see, like a while back, anytime anybody's ever complained about me or they get mad about something that has nothing to do with anything important, all they're doing is promoting me.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my YouTube channel blew up because I shot a comic book and I kept talking about it for days and days and days. You know, I got like 50 something new subscribers because the dude promoted. And that's something else they don't get. If they don't like the comics we're doing, if they keep showing them on stream and talking about them, it's a free commercial. Yeah.
And you know, here's my weird thing. There has to be a bunch of people who watch those videos go, "Oh, I've never seen that. That looks interesting. I'm going to go buy it." And they're watching this hate fest.
I'm going to go look at that. And they like get their hate face on it. I guess it's got a purple gorilla in it. I'm going to buy it.
Sweet. And, you know, that is a key thing with most people don't care. Most people don't care about politics or nothing. They're just kind of stumbling around. They see something. They go, "That's pretty sweet." And so Twitter often is surprised when the world behaves differently than they have been promoting. Like, wait, what? Why did everybody go see this movie but not that movie? We told them not to go to this one and to go to this one. It's like, because there's like 320 million people in the United States, and that's not how many Twitter people are on active Twitter. And but you know, most people don't really care about any of that. They're just having fun.
I'll tell you what kind of person I am. When everybody was going, Captain Marvel's going to be bad. Don't go watch Captain Marvel. Don't watch that. We're going to go watch it and tell you how bad it is. That makes me want to go, you know what? Nobody tells me what to do.
That's
I
right.
watched it.
You know, I went and saw, oh, no, I didn't go. I got burned down at that point. So I watched it digitally or whatever. And I was like, if I was a Marvel fan, I'd probably, like, if I read the comics or something, I might go, that's not the source material. But, you know, I was like, as far as Marvel movies go, how do you have like, oh man, I was hoping something like the Joker. Oh well, I was really disappointed. I was hoping there's a whole arc of her going insane or something
and murdering everybody.
Right, for what it was. And you know, that was, you know, back then that was, you know, everybody, that movie, that was probably manufactured outrage, because when that first trailer hit, everybody's like, oh, I'm burned out on superheroes. And all of a sudden these random accounts go, why ain't she smiling more? And it's like, no, even guys who are super sexist ain't gonna go, why ain't she smiling more?
There was a whole bunch of guys who made a lot of money hating Star Wars that needed a movie to hate that one after that one.
That's right. And then all of a sudden the trailer is like getting millions of views when it had 0 before, until these conveniently placed people started to go, oh wow, this movie's bad, ain't it? But then people start going, oh, maybe it is. You know what? Yeah, that really does trigger me. Now, I saw the trailer first and it was like, I didn't care. Now I really care, and I'm going to just be really angry about it. And then the movie makes $1 billion. And it's like, it's not terrible. I mean, it's like Suicide Squad or something, where it's kind of poorly made, but you know, whatever.
It's got a superhero in it.
It's got a superhero that does stuff. And so, you know, it's a so-so movie, but they made it into a big deal because of, I'm angry at this. It's like, no, your anger just makes it worse. And to be fair, Joker probably was on track to make 500 or 600 million until they said, you'll get shot. There's nothing a DC fan likes more than the possibility of being shot in a theater, because this is the 2 highest grossing, okay, excluding Aquaman, which had no threat of murder. The 2 highest grossing DC movies had a high chance of being shot to death. The Dark Knight Rises, in which people actually died, and then Joker, in which, no, it was just people being angry. And oddly enough, you know, mainstream audiences, which people need to pay more attention to, stop, you know, ignore the hyperbole audiences, because there's not a lot of people really in those. Those general audiences, even in indie comics and stuff, matter far more than the isolated echo chambers. And you look at Joker, made $1 billion just because they're like, people are going to get shot in the theater because of Joker. And some guy's like, what, Joker? Is that a movie? I'm going to go see that movie. Don't you hear? Shot to death. What? Joker? Yeah, I'm going to go see that. And the weird thing is, it shifted. You know, it was Captain Marvel. Wasn't a great movie. It shouldn't have made it. Making over $1 billion was just purely people going, well, you tell me it's bad, I'm going to go see it. Joker, and then it was Joker, which was kind of the audience going, Captain Marvel's going to be bad. It was the flip. And suddenly they go, well, I'm going to go see Joker. Then Birds of Prey tanks, because I think that audiences, you know, I think the outrage isn't really working anymore, because they tried really hard, because they're like, okay, go on TV and say, this ain't for boys. And that'll get that audience in, and it didn't work. I bet that scared the hell out of them, because Marvel and DC have put a lot of money into these campaigns that will trigger one side or the other. And they're hoping that will keep these $1 billion things going. But it hopefully it don't work no more. It don't look like it did. But Oh yeah, buy my comic, Saving the World, everybody.
Yeah, it's right there in the thing under us. It says "Saving the World." I'm
It
dropping
might
the link right there in the chat.
it might trigger you.
Yeah,
You either will hate it or you'll love it, and it depends who you talk to.
You tell people to read it, and I'll tell them not to. Don't read this. Don't back it.
Yeah, we should switch that. I'm
Okay.
gonna hate my own comic. It's
Back
terrible.
this.
It
It's
is
for boys.
morally offensive. It's only for girls. And
Don't listen to him.
that has been the weirdest thing, though, that I never I don't make something for a gender. I make it for me.
I only make things for genderless people.
That Brian Ball is correct. Every physical copy gets a print by Luigi, donated by Brian Ball.
And he's going to cough on every one of them, so
Yes.
you might get coronavirus.
I got a bunch of the coronavirus. No, these they had a film festival in town, and a bunch of like filmmakers come from New York and stuff. This like last weekend, but I had a cold right before, so I had a cold throughout it and stuff. So I was paranoid I had the coronavirus. But then the cold went away, and I'm not dead, so it all worked out for the best.
I saw that picture of you and your brother, and you can definitely tell that that's your brother.
Yeah, I can't see it, but evidently we look exactly the same, except for I have more head on my head.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that because I was like, those guys are definitely brothers.
Right. And so, and that was really cool. It was kind of a strange thing because all of a sudden it sounds like my life is really exciting. It isn't. I don't know what the hell's going on. This month is stupid. There was like a film festival. My brother put it on and stuff. Celebrities and all this. I'm like, I live in the smallest town on the planet. Like, it is a very, very small town. And nothing has happened here in 39 years of my life until this month is all just going crazy. There was a llama in pants in a parade. And I was like,
that right there is worth everything.
Exactly. So everything.
Forget the film festival. Forget everything.
Llama and pants.
Now, Crypto Comics wants to know,
yes,
does this campaign have another 30 days to go, or is this the real final hours? So are you going to extend it, or are you going to wrap it up for good?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, me? No. It's the Indiegogo wraps up.
But so you can extend it another 30 days, I think, if you wanted to.
I feel, well, no, because I feel like that'd kind of be crappy because I've already told everybody, you get the stuff, digital Friday.
You can always, you're talking about launching a Kickstarter, you can always just launch the Kickstarter, and everybody who missed out can go to Kickstarter.
No, that's what I'm doing. So technically, yes, but the Indiegogo ends because I already promised people. That'd be kind of crappy. I'm ending the Indiegogo campaign and starting a Kickstarter. So no, it continues for another 30 days on Kickstarter, and there'll be some different comics there too. So there won't just be the
So what you're saying is go back it on Indiegogo, and then when it comes out on Kickstarter, back it again.
That would be preferable. I'm going to need y'all to buy a second copy. And here's the thing. There's birthdays. There's Christmases. And I'll tell you what any other, like any loved one would want. And that's my comic. It brings people together, I feel like. It could.
I just came up with an idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to back you on Kickstarter, and then when it shows up, I'm going to shoot it with this gun. And then we'll start like a big bunch of drama, and we'll fight, and that'll make both our books explode.
This is what, can we manufacture outrage? We probably shouldn't talk about it.
The thing is, if we talk about it here, and these people see it, and then we pull it off, they'll see that we're geniuses.
That is true. They'll go, now those guys, I'm going to buy their comic because of their mischievous ways. That really inspires me. No, but, Kickstarter will start soon, not immediately. It's, you think, well, there's nothing to do while the campaign's going. So I'm just gonna be coasting for 30 days or whatever. We'll do some updates. And you find that's the most stressful thing you ever did for 30 days. And that's partly why I'm like, no, this Indiegogo ends. This thing ends tomorrow.
People don't realize how stressful a campaign is.
It is. It is.
I mean, you spend every waking moment going, did you grab your phone? You're like, did somebody just back?
Right.
You wake up all night and you go, did somebody back?
That's right.
Oh, I need to share my link.
I've never wanted something to end so much in my life. But no, it's, yeah, there is just this, especially when, you know, it kind of peters out and stuff, where, you know, you're getting those, you appreciate every little cell, you know, that's very important. But, you know, you do want to kind of move to your next deal. And that was kind of, I had a schedule to keep also. So I want the Indiegogo to wrap up. So for one thing, I want to hear what people think. Maybe. But, and this was really a test run. I want to see how I pull it all off and I go, got that under my belt. And then I'll probably hold off the Kickstarter for a week just so I can, you know, figure out how I want to handle that. Because yeah, I want it to where the Indiegogo miss out on nothing, but there'll be things that they could get. You know, I wouldn't want to do I wouldn't do a bundle that forces you to get another #1. That'd be stupid. But I do have comics that just since I've been doing this campaign, I was like, man, I have stuff already done. I got tons of comic books I did that I've never released, just sitting back there. I re-ink things digitally to make them look fancier, because I used to be a lot worse. My comics aren't as handmade as people think. They think, they're like, man, that guy, he is great. He must draw with finger paint. Like, no, I don't draw with finger paint, you bastard. But no. Like my lettering isn't actually hand lettered. It's meant to look like that. It's actually just typed. My wife actually made the font for me. Because I tried to do it, but I have this weird thing, like I had a stroke or something. So now my handwriting looks like I'm drawing Marilyn Manson logos. I don't know what happened, but I used to letter my own stuff, you know, because it was all ink on paper. But now it's all digital. And the time, it'd be too much time to sit there writing, you know, inking it all by hand, lettering and stuff. So no, the lettering's actually typed, and everything is designed to look like how I used to do it on pencil and with pencil and paper, but it isn't actually at all. My word bubbles start as a perfect circle. I actually warp them to make them look like I kind of did it by hand. So it's all a lie.
It's all sham. Go back to sham now.
I sit on a throne of lies. But it's to match my art style, which that's something people should maybe think about. Keep in mind,
you've got your own style lettering. It's not just generic letters. Yeah. So that's really cool. And
I think people should think, because one of my biggest complaints would be when the lettering and stuff isn't taken as seriously, or it just doesn't match. I've seen a lot of just digital, like where they just do New Times Roman and type it out, and it's like, your art would have to be a really specific style to match New Times Roman or Comic Sans, either. You know, it'd have to be something. And there's that font that is used in every single comic. I would argue I'd never touch that.
I don't even pay enough attention. I just read words. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm also blind, so like I did my lettering so that I could see it, because I'm supposed to wear glasses. And it's really funny because my glasses got broke, but my entire online presence has been without them. But it's like my brand. I have these giant black glasses that I always wear, but I don't wear them anymore. Anyways, I can't see very well is the point of the whole meandering story.
I know how that is.
And so I made the lettering bigger and plainer because it's hard for me to read a flipping comic book, because they use that real tight, dense lettering so they can put a wall of text on every page.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit wider deal. But, you know, people think about that. If your art is rougher, like you have a rougher around the edges style, is not super smooth or cartoon or stuff, then that digital stuff isn't, you know, it kind of contrasts too much for me, at least. I don't know.
I tell you what's funny though is people who are so by the numbers, they want to be Marvel and DC, and they start criticizing. They're like, "Well, this is not how they do it."
Right.
I don't really give a flip.
Right. They do it
the way I want to.
Yeah, and you know, that certainly has to be a part. How is every every letter in the industry use the same font? Because you know they're told, wow, like if you look at a Marvel or DC comic and stuff, most of them use the same font, and I find that peculiar. Like, hey, what's your career? Oh, I letter. Oh, do you have a style? No, I do exactly.
Marvel font number 3.
Number 3. I tried number 2. And no, I felt it was too risky. A little too. It's spicy. It was real spicy. But no, you know. But back in the day, that was a big deal. Everybody, you know, like Terry Moore, he has a ruler, and he sits and writes it by hand. But he's addicted to that stuff. Like everything he does is like pencil and pen rulers and stuff.
If I had to write anything by hand, people would be like, "Is this in Chinese? I can't read this."
For me, yeah, I'm too much. I think right nowadays I'm in a hurry, and when I write, if I get in a hurry, it gets worse and worse.
That's what I like. We looked at everything Marvel and DC did and did the complete opposite. I had a former pro tell me, he's like, "Well, your book doesn't look like Marvel. It looks indie," and I was like, "Good. That's what I want."
Well, that explains the indie comics thing.
Well, seeing how I never worked for Marvel, I can see, you know, that's probably why.
Yeah, and you know, and it is. It's not for everybody, but I think that certainly there should be, you know, my favorite artists and stuff don't draw anything like anybody you've ever seen, you know, like whether it's Six Scale, Illustrator Monk, Tony Sizzle, and so all those guys. If you see an image, you go, I know who did that. I don't need to see a signature. Most comics nowadays, though, especially even in the mainstream and some in the indie, you'd have to see the person's name. You're not going to pick it out of a crowd.
In all honesty, any other than like Jim Lee or Rob Liefeld, most people who do Marvel comics, it's just generic comic art.
Well, and it's a weird thing because I always wondered, like, what's happening? Like, what is it, the deal with comics? And it's this weird deal where most of them went to college in a certain place. They wanted a job at Nickelodeon or Disney Animation. And so they draw this very particular way because they were trained to, but they didn't get the job because it's all sent to, you'd have to move to Korea if you wanted to be an animator. And yeah, then they moved to comics because they couldn't get a job or something. So now we just got a bunch of wannabe Nickelodeon artists drawing a lot.
Is that why everything looks like Cal Arts and crap in comic books now?
Yes, well, partially, and then there's Marvel and DC wanting to reach younger audiences because they think we're all going to die.
Well, the thing is, their art is for younger audiences, but the writing is not.
Right, not exactly, but you know, it's kind of a thing I don't like of. You see people who have belief systems of anything. It could literally be anything. And when they put it into like adult entertainment or something, and adults just go, I don't agree with that. That makes them angry. So then they go, I'm going to write kids stuff because kids will agree with me. And it's like, no, that feels manipulative a little bit. But no, and it is true. They're aiming at late teens, early 20s is who they're trying to get, or teens in general. And so it comes back to that whole hello, fellow kids. Because you know, I didn't know it. I'm an old man also. You know, the gray hair. I am not a young whippersnapper, but I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to connect in any way. I write how I feel.
I
these
don't even like
characters.
the young people.
They suck. And
Yeah,
so,
they're loud and they listen to the hipping and hopping and the
right.
eating their Jello pudding pops, and you know.
And see, when I wrote Kira and Nora, I didn't go, what's that young generation doing? No, it's technically kind of set in the late 90s because I lived that. And so that's how I pictured these 19-year-old girls. 19-year-old girls in 1997, 96. The times that's their behavior, but you might see cell phones or something. I'm not too set with like what year it is or anything. But their big problem is they're not doing that. They're not write what you know. And it's ironic that the staples of writing, of literature, are offensive now. You know, I saw someone say it was a big deal. They freaked when someone said you should write what you know. And they said, well, I've never been to space. It's like, that's not the point. No. It's not that you can't write anything that you haven't personally done. It's that the focus needs to be something you know something about. You know, and anybody knows it when they, like a Southerner, when we saw was it Cowboy Way? We're like, what? I don't think you've ever been to the South, buddy. It's not that. That's a little extreme. But they did a cartoon version because it's all they know. Twister, where they tie themselves to a thing, is like, you haven't been in a tornado. The straw would go right through their heads. You won't survive a tornado just being belted to a post. Anyways, but
I did.
yeah, well, yeah, but you're the Doug. You're not
too fat for the tornado to pick up.
You're not a mortal human, so that don't count.
Well, I'm also in space, so
you are Space Doug, so you can write about that. But no, they were. Oh, it was Gail Simone, which I don't have huge problems with. I just don't like. Like I've never read something I liked of hers. It's just not my style or something. But anyways, she was infuriated. What? And it's like, no, that's every writer should really think about that. Write what you know, what you really don't fake it because it comes off campy or weird. But that's a huge problem in modern comics is they're writing characters they don't understand or don't know. And you don't have to be that person. You just need to understand them to be an actual freaking writer. Be a writer. And they're like, well, how? I'm not a 15-year-old. It's like, well, you were. Just think how that felt. Don't write the what you wanted to be when you're 15, and that's probably more it. Don't write what you want to be. Write what you remember, how you remember it. And because I write a lot of teenage characters and stuff, I thought it was going to be horrible. I had no idea. It's what the stories I wanted to write. But I had people that were in their teens read it, and the reaction was shockingly good. So I was I was kind of relieved about that. I don't want to be the old guy that's, writing about
the old guy writing about teenagers,
teen girls. What a pervo!
He's perv.
I'm
calling the police.
So I think that if someone can, it's empathy. Every writer needs extreme empathy. You should be able to write for the person that thinks 100% differently than you. You should be able to write that character without them being a horrible, offensive caricature. And that is almost no writer, few writers in comics can do that.
I have a problem with people writing Lone Wolf, and I had to be very, very, very vocal about people on Legends of Lone Wolf. They wanted to make him a generic native,
right?
Put feathers in his hair and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of different, nations that make up natives,
right?
There's Cherokee, there's Navajo, and all of them are very, very different.
Yeah.
And I had to stress that because everybody just wanted to write this and do this lore, and I'm like, that lore doesn't fit. You can't do that.
Right.
So when you write things you don't know, you at least need to do some research until you do know it.
Yeah, and especially with those, with cultures like that and stuff like that, there's a huge complexity. And sure, you can, if that's the genre, kind of like Indians and Cowboys. If it's an Indians and Cowboy story, One thing, there was no such thing as good guy cowboys. That wasn't what it was. Cowboys were actually bad guys. They were cattle wranglers, and most
Not
were
everybody who rode a horse and wore a hat was a cowboy. That today is a generic term.
right. Now it's just a guy who does that thing, and that's totally different. And there was the sheriff, but that's a different thing. But that is a genre that we accept, just like vampires. Why is vampires a generic thing? It's a very specific creature, but over time it's just become a thing, and you accept those rules it's been based, even if they don't make sense. Like zombies don't make sense, but
No.
it doesn't. We've all said, yeah, but it's fine. We'll accept that as totally being normal. And however, like with Lone Wolf, though, it becomes kind of important when it's seeing this one character, and it's not a cops and robbers or Indian, it's specifically about him. Then it does become important because of the emotional thing. If also it was just like, I'm gonna punch things in the face only, that wouldn't matter. But in this case, it's not. It's actually
it's very much part of the character in the story.
Yeah, it's important, and so and I mean, we see that crazy in mainstream comics, and and it's ironic because the diversity and representation, and it's like, yeah, I agree that it's boring seeing the same thing over and over. It doesn't hurt to try to do new things, new characters in different ways. But if they're doing them badly, though, they just keep doing things badly and then saying, well, you don't like it because of this. It's like, well, some people, yeah. But there's some people that authentically go, yeah, you just didn't. You're exploiting those people, though. You made it in the 90s, there was the token. They always had the token. There was 5 white people and there'd be 1 that wasn't. We all accepted that's dumb, that they were doing that just to say, hey, see, we're not super racist.
They would be like 3 white people, a black person, and a disabled person.
Right. They would mix it all up. Well, now it's reached an extreme to where every single person is something. And it's like, well, there's a weird thing because culture matters in writing. I feel that a lot of the times, people go, well, you should be able to relate to it. And it's like commercials. There's these commercials where they have oddly enough, like, the wife will be, say, black, and then the father is Hispanic, and then the children are Asian. And their idea is this commercial reaches all of those people because they're included. It's like, no, it reaches families that are that makeup. Because an African-American family wouldn't see a mixed race couple and go, just like us. No, they see just like a white person or an Asian, they say, that's a New York thing, isn't it? All races see things in that same way. And no, we don't all just say, hey, what is that?
I was thinking of the other day I got, they canceled my stream because I was showing too many cartoons. But Extreme Ghostbusters, I think it's two white dudes, a girl, and they combined the disabled and the black person into one.
Yeah. Right. And there's if it's not inherent to the story, there's certainly stories in which that's the point. Where they have these, it's because of this. But too often we're seeing Street Fighter or fighting game rules where they're like, there's the Native American, then there's the guy from India and all this. And it's like, you're making them into caricatures.
Yeah.
For instance, in where you're located matters to who you're going to see. So in my location, you'll see lots of Hispanic from Mexico. That's more just people straight from Mexico. Native Americans and white people who are part Native American. And so those huge mix, right? It's all pretty even or whatever. So then when they say, yeah, well, we're going to set a movie in that location, but we're going to have a bunch of Asian people, you're like, but there's diversity here, and you have to do that or it don't make sense no more. Why in Oklahoma is there a bunch of Asian people? That don't make no sense. Why don't you have Native American people? They're hard to find actors. So we just hired these people for the diversity. It's like, well, it shouldn't be for you. There's real diversity in the world, and if you represent it, that world is more relatable, and people don't feel like they're being tricked into something, because people are far more accepting than, the film festival was movies filmed all over the United States and stuff. And
I have to correct myself. I was wrong. They didn't combine the black guy with the wheelchair. There actually was a white guy in the wheelchair. So
well,
I remembered it wrong. YouTube ruined my memories when they took down my stream.
But no, and I was just thinking about that when I saw a commercial and they had this super multiracial family, and I was like, that only connects with multiracial families. And we see that happening in society, like the reaction to that in society, where all races feel like they're not included now. They're like, wait a second, did we go so far that we're all excluded now? Because our families aren't being represented, which, the majority will be, there'll be a lot of an African-American family, a white family, an Indian family. That will be actually pretty common. So you could connect with these families. But when they're only bizarre combinations where you're like, how did those kids happen though? One of the parents have to be their race.
Coke commercials, they have a group drinking their Coke here and a group over here. They're not all together. It's like, everybody can enjoy Coke.
Yeah, everybody in New York.
It's not like the white husband comes in and hands his black wife a Coke and the Asian kids run in and
they all yeah. And so, and I think those are good examples of nobody's really wrong about everything. They're just wrong about how they do them and go about them. There are these instances in where seeing Native Americans, especially, my goodness, talk about being completely ignored. It's the only time they exist, it's a weird caricature, but the culture going, in the past was very interesting. It's horribly portrayed. Like, Disney's Pocahontas, where they're like, hey, what if instead of being a 14-year-old girl, basically abducted by a 60-year-old man, we made both of them very sexy and 20 years old, and she doesn't die of polio or smallpox.
She dies of happiness.
That's the sequel, and you just spoiled it.
I'm sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Then
she dies of happiness. So, but anywho, saving the world really doesn't tackle any of those things.
No diversity, no polio, no Ghostbusters.
There's a redheaded girl, if that is diversity. But, and I mean, my main goal on saving the world is to give people, partly it was, I was trying to catch up with like one of the shared universes, and I was like, that's impossible. And so I was like, what if I wrote one from the beginning, like it is just like theirs, but everything that happens. Like you read this one comic book series and you get the feeling of that shared universe. You don't have to read 20 different series monthly. You just read this one and you get kind of a similar thing. That was goal number one. But I'm an indie writer, so it ended up being weird. I honestly was trying to write like superhero. And they kind of are, but I kept, I think about things and I go, but wouldn't their feelings get hurt here? And so it come out like this a little bit weirder type thing. But have I made any more money yet?
I've been looking. I don't think. It's still at $10.75.
We only need $25 more.
Yeah, we need the $25 more. Somebody get in there and make $25 appear.
We're gonna have to lure more people to this thing.
Yeah, we might have to do this again.
Yeah, we will, because we've gone on for 2.5 hours.
We like to talk.
Yeah, we do. We have fun.
See, like this is nice for me because I do 2 hour streams by myself.
Yeah.
I actually have somebody to talk to.
Yeah, it's a little easier.
I don't have to talk to Bill Cosby.
Yeah, you don't have to be Bill Cosby.
Yeah, exactly. To summon the dark side.
Let's see. Okay.
So let me drop the link there in the chat. If there's anybody here who hasn't backed it, go and check it out. Drop if you're not sure about it, at least drop $5 on the digital.
That's all I'm asking for.
That's all you ask for.
It reminds me of, you ever seen the Adam Sandler and Chris Farley bit where he goes, please let me stay at your house. I promise I won't do anything wrong. He goes, for the love of God, let the boy stay in your house. He ain't gonna do nothing.
I love that one because Adam Sandler has the hardest time not cracking.
Yeah.
He's like smiling and everything.
Can I sleep in your bed? I promise not to mess with anything. Let this cruel game end and let the boy sleep in your bed.
Me, that is my favorite era of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, definitely. Those guys, yeah, it was. There's such amazing things that I think about every day with Sandler and all of them, even David Spade and stuff. Because I think about his every time. I almost review every new movie the same as like the Hollywood Minute when he's like, "Oh yeah, it was a great movie." When it was cold, and the thing is,
yeah.
I always think about when I think about modern movies usually, but no, that has I found the GIF and I used it a few times promoting my comic, and I was like, I hope people know what this is from. Otherwise, it seems kind of bizarre. Can we end this cruel game or something? But,
yeah.
Because it is, you're kind of begging. You're kind of begging on Twitter, please buy my comic book.
Please, sir.
And so it starts to feel, it's funny. And yeah, and I always worry that, like I tried to limit how much I was just pure spamming people's feeds with begging. I tried to a little bit, but it's hard to do because you really got to get it out there quite a bit, but it's a very hard balance.
Yeah, and the worst thing to me in the world is people's like, you got to ask people to go on their shows. You got to get on their YouTubes. I hate asking people. It's like, can I please come on your YouTube and beg people to buy my funny book?
Yeah.
I just stopped asking. If anybody wants me to come on, I'll come on, but I'm not asking.
That's pretty much what I ended up with was if someone asked me, I'll go. But because the people I asked never got back to me, I only ended up going on shows that people asked me because anytime I asked somebody, they just ignored me. And I was like, whatever.
It's like Tonicmole. He doesn't work for Marvel or DC.
Once I'm king of the industry, I'll remember. I'm writing down names.
I got it wrote down.
Everybody
You're never coming on my YouTube.
That's right. Everybody better watch out. I'm keeping names.
That's right. This is my platform when I'm on it. I'm trying to think. If somebody will back a physical book and post their receipt on Twitter and tag me, I'll send you a Lone Wolf issue 1, and I'll send you a couple of these. You can't see them because I got the green screen on. These little 1-inch Lone Wolf pins. I'll send you a couple of those for free.
That's a good deal.
I'll actually send you 2 copies of Lone Wolf #1. I'll sign one, and then I'll send you one that doesn't have my signature on it.
1 reading copy.
That's right.
1 collectible.
So go and back that, and then tag me at DG310 on Twitter. And do it quick. Don't do it tomorrow and be like, "Oh, I saw your show yesterday." I want you to do it now. Do it now. We've been on here for 2 hours and 30 minutes, so that means that you owe us.
Yeah, at least $25.
Exactly.
That
can be your super chat to me. Is going back to that book.
$1 every so often, so that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. And I read people's messages anyway, so it's like, So like Eric Hawkins says, a ginger. Oh, I don't know if I like that. LOL. Old Eric Hawkins. He's a tricksy fella. Bing. That better be somebody back in your book.
No. I just remembered I got work to still do tonight.
Work is lame.
I know. So I might have to dip off of here.
Well, if you're watching and you want to go do that and you do it tomorrow or whatever, you've only got 29 hours.
Yeah.
So go and make that happen. And I'll send you Lone Wolf 1 and a couple of these really fancy pens. They're made out of 100% gold. They're not really, but the little pen part is gold colored, so you can pretend it's gold.
The color is all that counts.
That's right.
The gold.
The gold. So go do that, and we can wrap it up if you need to go do some work.
Yeah, I got work to do. I'm going to try to have everything fully prepared, and so I got a little bit to do tonight before I go to bed.
Well, I'll be promoting you tomorrow as much as I can and see if we can't get you those extra $25.
We're so close. So close. 1,100, that'd be perfect. That'd be a perfect finish.
That's the perfect number.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, thanks for coming on, and now let's check this out. Eric Hawkins says, at Doug Garrett, I'll tell you what, the next person to back a physical, I'll throw in a zombie full world of Oz with your Lone Wolf.
Nice.
And trust me, you want the zombie full world of Oz. I read it the other day and talked about it on stream. That book is awesome. It's well worth it. So go back the physical copy of Saving the World #1, and you'll get 2 really awesome books along with that book.
You get the book. You get the Saving the World #1. You get the Saving the World ash can that is now full size. And then you get the Zombie Full, and you get the Lone Wolf. That is 4 comic books.
And pens.
And pens made possibly of gold. Something that is gold.
Yeah, so definitely go, and I'll drop the link right here. Go make that happen. First person to do that and tag me on Twitter at DG310. You'll get all this fancy stuff. So I want to thank Eric Hawkins for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Eric.
Us underground indie comics guys got to stick together. So I want to say I appreciate everybody. Like Brian Ball was in here. I appreciate that dude. He's been doing a lot to help your campaign, and he didn't have to do that.
Crazy amount of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really cool people. There's a lot of, for every turd that I come across, I meet at least 3 or 4 really good people.
Oh, that is definitely true. And but yeah, the art, because like when I saw Luigi did the Sailor Rogalski and Kira and stuff, it never gets old. The funnest thing is seeing other people draw your characters, because it feels like it's real. He's still here too.
I mean, he's been here a while. I can't believe he's listened to us ramble for so long.
But the dang, I'm gonna back myself.
Just to get all this stuff.
I'm just gonna build it up to people all donate a bunch of stuff, and then I back it myself. I'm like,
winner is me.
But no, but yeah, seeing other people do your stuff, it is like crack at this point. I can only afford to do it so often, like hire, like commission somebody. And so, but every time I see it, and I hope it continues. So far, everybody has a completely different idea of what Kira looks like to some degree. Like there's always you can always recognize her, but like her specific costume and the colors, like I never included yellow in it, and now there's evidently she does. She has yellow in it, but and it's the coolest thing ever, because kind of like you see Batman over the years and his emblem changes and stuff. It's like that in real time. So like I give people some stuff to look off of so they kind of understand like what her costume generally is. But I really like that they kind of do their own thing. It humors the living hell out of me. And I'll probably steal aspects that look better than mine.
I've had people do things with Lone Wolf, and I'm like, I'm stealing that.
That's
too cool, you know, I have to steal it.
Because yeah, Monk removed the gloves, and I was like, that's not a bad idea. And then like he had the thigh-high boots, and I was like, that's really good. And no, yeah, there's just tons of this stuff. And Luigi drew it how I should be drawing. It's funny because what she is in my head, like I know the details of who she like, what she looks like, but my style is different. And so in theory, she shouldn't have a super thin waist like I draw, but that's just how I draw. I can't, it is what it is. But he drew her where she kind of had some like she's thickness to her, and that's exactly how she's supposed to be. Not even I draw her right. But so yeah, it's interesting. Some artists have drawn her much more correctly to what she is in my head than I did. So it's really, really cool. And so that's been.
When you're me, every artist draws your character better than me.
That must be exciting.
So exciting.
Yeah. And no, as a writer too, it's when you write a page and then you see an artist actually draw it,
it is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's when I get a page now, it's like, that's even better than what I saw in my head.
Yeah. I throw random words at Sizzle and he comes up with stuff sometimes.
I think you could take a voice recorder and fart onto it and tell Sizzle to make words out of it, and he can still draw something else.
Yeah, let me get this, because I was just so behind that the Gypsy script was narration, not broke up into pages or frames, only vague description of what was actually happening. And I was like, hey, this is what I got, because it was, oh boy. It was like 5 days ago. So he has like 10 days to do. Well, it's supposed to be 4 or 5 pages because I knew that's going to be really hard. And I was like, are you interested? He said, no problem. And then he contacted me.
I'm Tony Sizzle.
I'm Tony Sizzle. And I said, hey, do you need me I can break this down. I just wanted to get it to you as fast as possible. It's no breakdowns or nothing. And he goes, I'm an American. I'll make it work. And sure enough, but then he's like, it's going to be 8 pages now. And so now I almost got a full book because, and he's like, I'm falling behind. It's like, my God, man, you had 5 days to draw 8 pages. You're so far ahead of what you should be. And all the pages, you'll have to see them, but it's some amazing, because I mean, what I envisioned with Gypsy, I was like, it's a Jay Lee, like Jay Lee type thing, Frank Miller, this very specific look that I can't do. And but I told him nothing. And I get to like the preliminary kind of the beginning thing. So I was like, oh my God, it's so Frank Miller, Jay Lee combined that it's uncanny. And I'm like, that's bizarre. But it's exactly what I was kind of picturing. I was like, yeah, it needs this look to it, and he's just burning through pages like crazy. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think that's my Tony Sizzle impersonation now, though. I'm Tony Sizzle.
That might be it. I'm an American.
Just pour whiskey on yourself and yell and do the drawing.
Get to work. Dips his paintbrush and whiskey. Just goes to town. Get out of my way. But so yeah, I'm very excited about that. And then I believe Peter Palmati is about to wrap up on that whole deal. And that is, it's a very similar thing. It's kind of funny that, my comic's going to be kind of cartoony, and then there's going to be this extra that has very dark, like this is hyper dark, gut wrenching and all this type stuff. But it's very exciting to see it all coming together. And I think people will be, I hope they like it. Kind of. I hope they like it enough to keep going, like to keep reading. That's my primary deal. Because I want, this is the comic I wanted. And I'm hoping other people do. I'm hoping there's enough other people that go, yeah, because I'm not going, there's no course correction. Because, it'd be pointless at that point. Okay. I better not start another ramble.
Yeah, because we said we're going to wrap this up, and then we ranted for like 10 minutes.
Just 10 minutes. So that let it settle in. So now the people know, boy, I'm going to get like 4 to 5 comics if I just support this. You know what? If you already ordered the comic book, it would be worth it to get it again. Because you're getting comics that are likely dramatically better than the thing I'm trying to hawk off on you. And so you might as well jump into it.
And then you got one to give away, and you're getting all the extras again.
Because you're going to forget someone's birthday, and then you're going to look like a huge D-bag. Mm-hmm. In this case, boom, Tonicmole saves the day for you.
Or you're a single guy, and you see the nerdy chick that likes comic books, and you're like, hey, check out this comic book you can have.
That's right.
It's your girlfriend, you neck-bearded weirdos.
Boom! All on old Uncle Tonic.
That's right. And then he'll have to be the best man at your wedding.
No, it's just name your firstborn after me. I'm too busy for that now.
There you go. Well, you could be first man over a live stream. They can just live stream it and be like,
that
man.
I'll do that. Hold on. If somebody does the $25, the $25 thing to get it to $1,100, you get, I forgot how many comics, I think 4 to 5. And not only that, but if in doing so, you then meet somebody and get married, it don't matter which, you can be a lady who finds a man or a man that finds a lady, whatever, or man and woman, or any of those combinations, and get married, mind you. It's going to have to be official. I ain't some hooligan out here with these loose relationships. It has to be like you got to put a ring on it. I will be your best man over a stream. I'm adding that value in there.
That's right there is worth it.
I think so. That's like a $200 value.
Yeah, I mean, where else do we get that?
I think I'm ordained. I think I did that once. So not best man. I will actually, do the ceremony. If I'm not ordained, because I might have dreamed that. I don't know. I will be. It takes like 5 minutes on the internet.
Yeah, there you go.
So I will carry out your marriage.
For $25.
Mm-hmm. Just $25.
For the love of God!
Just give me $25. I promise the comic book will be good.
Oh, man. Well, everybody, the link is in the description. It's in the chat. Make this happen. We're going to sign off here. I appreciate Tonicmole coming by and hanging out for nearly 3 hours.
Yeah. We had to outdo it.
Yeah. I
was on 2 hours on other shows, but now the Dougcast got to the 3 hours of Tonic.
The Dougcast always does it the best.
Yes, that is agreed.
But we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Another shout out to Brian Ball and Eric Hawkins. You guys are awesome. So go check out this book. If you don't want to do the $25 and get all the awesome stuff, at least pick up the digital for $5. Pickles just showed up and he says, my presence shuts down streams. Shut up, Pickles. We're leaving because you're here.
Sorry, Pickles.
So good night, everybody. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Bye.